there, and before you get started on this episode of Zapped to the Past, we would just like to give a massive shout out to the following people: Andy Marsh, Cole Hutchinson, David Hearn, Sven Osa, 2000 DC, Gary Heather, Roger McNally, Lee Dove, Ben Granville, Mark Fletcher, Etienne Vettingfeld, Niall Bullitt, Alexander Gosling, Tim TJ Walker, Phil Sowerby, Joshua K, Dominic Kendrick, Rune P, Nick James, Daniel Spreadbury, Peter Price, Richard Davey, Dennis B, AL82 Retro, Liam Carew, Dylan Darch, Alistair McMillan, Mark Schutz, Dan Wales, Gary Wilson, Oscar Jacobson, Brian Howarth, Rob Clayton, Clyde Radcliffe, Juan Luis Sanchez, Adam Askew, Lee Staples, Jason Hutchins, Jan Halholm, David Stringer, Chris Snowden, David Winter, Mike's Retro Tech, and John Ebbs. These amazing people, well, they've backed our Patreon at C64 tier. Support they offer, well, it's just amazing. If you want to join them, get a mention in next month's shout out, access to our Discord server, early access to ad-free episodes, along with any special releases put out, contribute to our special episodes like the end of the year rewards and Ask the Podcast and anything like that, then sign up by the 18th of the month at patreon.com/Zapped to the Past for probably less than the price of a pint of beer. And now, on with the rest of the show. And welcome to episode 159 of Zapped to the Past. I am Adrian Mills. I'm joined as always by Mr. Graham Raddings. If you haven't listened before, well then, this is a podcast where we discuss games that were released for the Commodore 64. Last week, we looked at our first batch of games from issue 65 of Zap 64, which we are in no way affiliated with, and were temporarily displaced by Time Machine, shocked by Shadow Warriors, and galled by Galaxy Force 2. Possibly. Who knows? This week, we conclude our look at the games in September 1990, along with what was also lighting up our TV and cinema screens that month. Graham, did you ever envisage that you would play so many C64 games in your lifetime? And are the games this month something you are happy to have played?
No. With September now reaching its 30-day limit, the breakneck hurtle towards Christmas has truly begun. And in a month that also saw a 500-pound 6-foot Hershey's Kiss get displayed at Times Square in New York City, we explore the downright bizarre and colourfully hoppy world of a basketball-bearing adventurous leg in the Lord knows what they were smoking bonkers 8-bit game, Heatseeker, and then take control of one of the largest football brands on Earth via awkward icons, endless options, and alarmingly short game halves in the managerially confused Manchester United. You know, by the time September is ending, the shops are already getting in the extra turnips for Halloween. That's right, I said turnips. We were on a tight budget back in the 90s. While we try and find our best carving spoon in readiness, we take another trip down the even more niche aisles of the Arcade Obscura, this time dusting off an old Sega multi-screen pinball-type game to literally take a giant 8-bit dump on it. In Time Scanner, we then head to the familiar world of the half-assed top-down shoot-'em-up as we get menaced by totally random sprite meatballs on strings in the daft Killing Machine, before finally heading to the oversized football pitches, mini-players, and scrabbly gameplay of the second attempt at getting an Amiga game right on the C64 with Kickoff 2. Now, I'm not sure September 1990 will be remembered for its amazing football game, but it might be remembered for a game that featured a ball and a foot.
Thank you for listening to Zapped to the Past.
Shortest episode ever.
It could very well be. This is an odd week. It's a really odd week.
You're not kidding. You're not kidding.
Just when you think things can't get weirder, things get weirder.
I think this episode has got the weirdest game I've ever seen in it, I think. So
it's an odd one. It is an odd one.
It really is.
But yeah, hopefully you all enjoyed the chat with Carlton last week.
Yeah.
That was good. We enjoyed doing that.
Super cool guy.
Yeah, it's always good to chat to actually people who are making the games and still making the games. And that was really good fun. Maybe we'll do more of those things in the future. Who knows? Depends whether we can drag some people in to actually chat to us. It's all good. It's all good. So hopefully you enjoyed that. If you wish to support the podcast, you can do so. You can go over to patreon.com/Zapped to the Past and sign up. It's cool. It costs probably about the price of a pint of beer or something, or a sandwich, or a Costa coffee, or I reckon in about 4 weeks' time it'll be a Mars bar. But
they're quite expensive, aren't they? Heading that way.
It's really ridiculous sort of thing. I remember having 60p for lunch when I was at school, and that got me a cheese top, a can of Coke, and a bag of crisps.
I don't understand the logic of buying one crunchy bar for £1.10 or 4 crunchy bars for £2. I don't get it. I think how your business model's gone crazy.
True, but that's how the obesity epidemic happened.
Yes, it's not helping. It's not
helping. It's not helping at all, sort of thing. But if you want to support us, go over there. Zapped to the Past, patreon.com/Zapped to the Past. Sign up. Get access to these episodes ad-free and early. Join us if you've got questions for people who we do interviews with. If you've got stuff for our end-of-year podcasts, Ask the Podcast, all those kind of things we do, then you can do that if you signed up to the Patreon. If you just want to chuck us a quid or the equivalent of whatever quid is in your local region, then you can do that too. And for that, you get our everlasting thanks, which is cool.
Exactly.
It's all good, and we are very appreciative of whatever it is that you can chuck our way. It's all amazing.
That's true. All intergalactic currencies are welcome, including the Ningi and the Pew.
Absolutely, and the Quartlu.
Yep, we're all welcome. We're all welcome.
We like them all. So there you go. Join. You can chuck us a coffee as well at ko-fi.com/Zapped to the Past. Buy merch at zappedtothepast.shop.
You should.
There's all kinds of stuff. All kinds of things. Or, rate and review us. Give us a review on iTunes if you like us and things like that. It's all good.
Do that. It's lovely.
It is. Let's get that out of the way now because we've got stuff to do at the end. So we have got things to look at and talk about and chat about. So with that out of the way, should we get into the games, Graham?
Oh, God help us. Let's get into them.
Well, there's 5 games this week, 2 this part, and then 3 in the end bit. But let's get in to the first one.
Do you know, I've never been so glad that you got a game in my life when I saw this. I didn't know I didn't quite know. My brain just went, it was like a instant wrong. Over to you.
Well, this is a Graham brain wrong. This is Heatseeker. Heatseeker. This is another game from Thalamus, and it is, as Graham said, the very odd. I'll just say it's the very odd Heatseeker. Yeah. This was £9.99. Got 75% of the magazine, and it may seem similar. When I first played this, I was like, this feels familiar. It may seem similar if you've gone and played it, to another game we looked at way back in episode 33, which we were left equally confused by, but we were weirdly, strangely impressed by it. I think that's probably maybe the thing here, because this is created by Paul O'Malley, and it's got music by Mark Clements. Now, Paul O'Malley, going back to episode 33, he did Iraq.
That makes a lot of sense now.
Yeah. As soon as you put Iraq and you mention this, you go, yeah.
Yeah.
So if you remember Iraq with the spider droid and crawling around, this kind of high-res, weird character-based graphics, well, here we are again. Heatseeker makes a lot of sense. Hi, Paul. You've done it again. I mean, not that this makes a lot of sense, but I don't know, but the look and feel of it makes sense. So what is Heatseeker? There's a story. Of course, there's a story. I'm just going to read it straight from the manual because I can't précis this.
It's impossible.
Right. So strap in. A doomed world. The ancient land of Tantris, where they practice sort of 5-hour sex, I think. Legend has it that the Triphilius of Nem, 3 mysterious and magical plants, their petals forever open. Well, there's another.
Oh, God, here we go.
Holding their lifeblood. The entire race memory and psychic heritage of the people of Tantris. Should their lifeblood ever corrupt, doom would follow.
It always does.
Thulsa Doom. Could be anyone.
All the dooms.
All the dooms. Thulsa and Doctor. All the people would surrender to plague and death. I don't think you surrender to that. You just catch it and die.
Well, yeah, when doom's around, that's what's going to happen, isn't it?
That's what it is.
Very doomy. Very doomy.
The legends have lost their meaning. Civilization is heavily industrialized and spews its filth in a blanket of pollution over the land. Even the pure cleansing power of rain has been perverted into acid poison. The subtext in this is not very subtext.
I was going to say, do you think this was submitted for a sixth form essay on industrial waste or something?
Yeah. And at the very heart of Tantris, the Trifilius of Nem and its lifeblood are threatened by the downpour of death. Their blooms have closed and the beneficent influence on Tantris shut off. Tantris is doomed. That's in bold, by the way. And yet in this soulless modern world, there is hope. The Gnostics, a wise and secretive race, forgotten by all but a few, seeing their lands in peril, have constructed the leg. The leg.
What are you in EastEnders? Dr. Leg.
Dr. Leg. Where man cannot go safely, a machine may trespass unharmed. The leg is an acid-resistant heat probe, designed to enter the most polluted of areas and absorb the heat of the Zeal smog flames. Remote controlled by one of the Gnostics, the leg must explore the heartlands of Tantris twice, once by day, then by night. Then, on Midsummer's Eve, the robot must approach the Trifilius of Nem and send out its probe to relinquish its stored heat to their lifeblood to revitalize the plants and give them strength to open their petals and resume their beneficent influence, thus restoring vitality to the land and common sense to the people of Tantris.
What the hell?
The Gnostics know a vast amount of zeal flame heat must be stored to stand any chance of saving all three plants. But then in a world of acid rain, the only hope of salvation lies with the Heatseeker. I have no idea. There you go.
Some crazy noise just happened in the background on your audio as well.
I've got plane going over. Hang on, wait a minute.
That's great. That was great. It was perfectly timed.
That's the leg, I think. Sorry, I've got my window open because it's hot. So apologies if there's a plane going over.
It sounded perfect. It was perfect timing. That.
There you go. Anyway, yes, the Heatseeker. What is the point of all this? And how do you do it? What is all this?
Is there a point to all that? There's a point.
Yeah, there is. I mean, I think it's about acid rain and sex. Is what I think this is about.
Okay.
That's what I got from reading all that. Anyway, whatever.
A Simply Red album.
Yeah. Something got me started. Again, the instructions give us some clue to what to do. So this is the instructions tell us, okay? Your overall aim is to unfurl the petals of the three plants of Nem, once by day and once by night. To do this, your aim is to drain as much heat as possible from the 8 zeal flames on each level. Do this by releasing the ball into the flame and waiting for it to heat up. Return the ball to the leg, avoiding heat-sapping creatures and cold acid rain and water drops before the ball probe energy runs out.
Right.
No one wants your ball probe energy running out.
You don't. Nobody needs that.
No one needs that. If the ball probe loses too much energy, it automatically returns to the leg. Draining the leg of some of its energy. Actually, it's not written draining here. It says drain, which I don't know if that's a word. Draining the leg of some of its energy. Get the ball probe back to the leg and its stored heat will be drained and retained in the leg for later use. And your energy will recharge. Kick creatures away to gain points and to protect yourself. Okay. To progress to the next level, having drained as many zeal flames as possible, a minimum pass score of 9999 must be reached. To progress from the day to the night levels, the petals of all three plants of Nem must have been unfurled on level 3. Do this by releasing the ball probe to the plants, where its stored heat automatically causes the bloom to unfurl. So it's something about balls and heat and unfurling leaves. I told you there's subtle euphemisms here. Anyway, that's what we have to do then. So are we all clear? You clear on that, Graham? Have you got what you've got to do?
Yeah. I think.
So when the game loads, we get a strange loading screen that's kind of full of images that are being overlaid over each other, like shots of like little squares of plants, snails, frogs, and things like that. And at the bottom of it says "Seek the Heat." And to me, it looked like a conceptual album cover by some kind of avant-garde rock band of the mid-'80s. Even that typeface looked like it. I was like, oh, that'd make a good album cover. But it is what it is. It's odd, but it's kind of unusual. That is the thing about this game. It is unusual. It is unusual. It's unusual. So the game loads. The title screen is the opening screen of the game. So if you've played Iraq, you'll know the kind of the visual style we're going to here. Sort of high-res, character-based. There are giant mushrooms and bricks in the background. It's got the title of the game. There's an option to practice the game in either day or night mode. I'll come to that later. It's got your score, the high score, the best number of NEMs you have unfurled. So whatever that means, I don't know. If you press N to not practice, so you can press yes or no. It just basically says, do you want to practice or not? Yes or no. Press no, the game begins. Press yes, you can practice. And what happens is, as soon as the game begins, your mechanical leg appears. And this is carrying what looks like a basketball in the hip joint at the top of it. And this is what you control. So essentially, you've got a sort of bionic leg with a basketball.
So rad.
I'm not kidding. That is what this is. That's what you control. So most of the screen shows the game itself. You've got the UI at the bottom. It's got various bars and meters across it. It's quite nicely designed, this UI. I quite liked it. The left is a window. It's got a little sort of window bit. It says leg. It just says leg. And this represents how much heat is stored in the leg. You're going to get bored of me saying leg, by the way. Next to this is the score. Then there's the leg's energy, which is, it's got a light. It's like a heart monitor. Beep, 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 one of those sorts of things going
nice,
across.
That.
Like, it is nice. It's a nice thing. It's a nice thing. Then in the middle of the, when you're on the title screen, there's the thalamus sort of face logo in the middle. But when you start playing the game, it's just covered over by the basketball.
Yeah.
Just the ball. So you got the ball in the middle. And this changes colour as you absorb heat. I say, okay. Then there's the ball's energy, which is to the right of the ball. That's the same as the legs, different colour red line instead of the green line for the legs. You've got the pass score. Remember, you need to get 9999 to move on to the next level, transferring heat. And then you've got the telemeter. I'll kind of come to that later. It's a bit weird, that bit.
That's a bit weird.
That's a bit weird. It's all a bit weird. So essentially, to sort of boil this down, it's a flick screen platformer. Really, aside from the screens don't flick, they scroll from the present one to the next one, whether up, down, left, or right.
Yeah.
But it's not freeform scrolling. So as soon as you move off to the left, the screen sort of scrolls across, and then that next screen is the next screen. So you're onto the right. But it's smooth and it works. So you basically, you don't just flick to the next screen, you scroll across. You can kind of see what's going on. And you must navigate the various screens. And your job is basically to find the flames that are dotted around the levels. So you progress through these levels, you find these flames, and they're easy to see because they're quite big, but navigating to them is not so easy. This is where things get tricky. So the controls are relatively simple to describe. The left and right to bounce the leg in that direction. If you press fire, it shoots the ball out a short distance the way you are facing. So it sort of fires it out before it comes back into your hip joint, I guess. If you press up, then you jump upwards. And if you press down, then you enter into skate mode. I think if you press... From skate mode, if you press up, you jump higher. So this allows you... So if you're in skate mode, pushing down, it kind of crouches and goes into skate mode. So this allows you to get around because the leg hops. You hop because it's a leg. How else would a leg get around? It has to hop.
Yeah, it hops.
So it hops. So if you pull down, you go into skate mode, which allows you to sort of get around the constant bounce leg, and you actually just move left or right, sort of flat. But the longer you move on skate mode, the faster you go. It's kind of get inertia based. So you've got to slow down and stuff like that. But it is necessary to go into skate mode for making some of the longer jumps, because you need to get up some speed in skate mode. And then if you let go of the joystick, you'll continue skating. If you push in the up diagonal in the way you're going, so if you push to the right, so you push to the top right diagonal, you'll do a longer jump. Okay, yes. So you need to do that to cover some of the bigger gaps. Because if you just press up while you're skating, you'll just do a normal up jump. You'll kind of stop skating immediately. So you need to kind of master that art. It's quite tricky, but you need to master that. If you press up and fire together, this is harder than it needed to be for me, because half the time I was trying this, I'd either jump off, fling the basketball out. But when you get it right, the ball is actually released. And at this point, you control the ball. The leg stays where it is, and the ball can just go off and meander around the levels as you want. It's kind of like, it's what it is. And it kind of controls a little bit more control, but the opening part of Whiz Ball. Yeah. Because you apply rotation to the ball, essentially, as it's bouncing, to make it move left or right. So when it bounces, if you apply rotation and you apply it to the right, it will bounce to the right. How much rotation you put on it will depend how far you go. However, you can pull down to sort of slow the bounce height down so you can have lower bounces. That's quite nice. You can actually pull down and fire, which will stop you bouncing completely, and then you can just roll the ball left or right and then push up to start the ball bouncing again. So you do actually have some decent control over the ball, the leg, and things like that. It's tricky at first. It will become a pain in places. We'll come to that later, but there is control there. It's not once you get used to it, it's not so bad, but it's not as easy as it could be. So when you get near the flames, you need to release the ball, and you basically bounce the ball over to the flames and stay in it. So what happens then? This will cause the ball on the UI to start changing color, okay? And it will go through various different colours, for sort of from a sort of cold colours of blue. It'll go through blues and oranges, then reds, and then yellows. Finally, it'll start glowing white with the sort of pulsing middle bit. At that point, it's absorbed all the heat it can do. And then what you've got to do then is get that ball back to the leg. So you land on the leg, it automatically locks in, and then it transfers the energy. You get a little sort of symbol at the bottom saying transferring energy sort of in a couple of hours at the bottom. And that's pushing the energy back into the leg. This will replenish your health. It replenishes the energy in the leg. You'll see that. And the pass score will go up. So it'll start ticking up the numbers. So the whole point of that pass score, remember, is to get it to 9999. So there's 8 flames dotted around the levels. You've got to find all 8 of them, absorb all the heat from them, and get that in the leg. That's what it is. Once you've done that, you can go back to, I think, the start of the level. You press F1, and that basically transports you to the next level. There's 3 levels to get through, and then it's got different graphics, same theme. It's all plants and things like that, and animals and different kind of animals, stuff like that. But it's differently drawn, but it is what it is. And it is a multi-load, though, so it differently loads in the new level. If you get through all 3 of these levels, then you've got to do them all at night time, okay? So here the graphics are changed. So all you can see here is just the outline of the plants. It's like in brown. And this is a really nice effect, actually. So you can't really make out much of the screen. There's just the outlines of the plants, the kind of like the shadows, the highlighted bits, and they're just in brown. But around you've got like this torch-like effect as you bounce about. It's only yellow effect. So as you're moving around the levels, this is lighting up the plants and stuff where you are, which is actually a really smart effect for the C64. It looks like a proper torch. It is nice. Gives you light as you move around, and I think that's quite cool. And so should you manage to make it through these levels, well done. If you get enough energy, you get enough thing, you get to the Trifilius of Nem, whatever it's called, you unfurl the plants, the leaves, and then that's it. Well done. You teleport back to the beginning of the game, and you get a little celebratory bit of music, and you've won the game. That's it. So that's the thing. You load the levels, find the heat sources, get to the next one, get to the end with enough heat, unfurl the plants. That's it, really. Essentially, that is it. I mean, it's a strange game, but that's what you got to do. In the world itself, there's plenty of things scurrying about, and you need to avoid them because they take your health away, or they damage your energy, or they steal your health, things like that. So, and you can kill them by throwing the ball at them. And it's all sort of small plant, animal-based stuff. So you've got snails, ants, frogs, tortoises, caterpillars, hoverflies, snails, and spiders, sort of wandering around. Some more, some will just wander about. Frogs just dot about. Tortoises, sort of just amble, and snails and stuff like that. The spiders and hoverflies will be a bit more mean. They come on the sort of second level, and they'll start coming after you. You can kill them, but they're sort of flying about and trying to get you. And there's even a Venus flytrap. There's Venus flytraps dotted around, which can grab you and sort of drain you of energy, so they need to be avoided at all costs. There are smart bombs as well you can pick up, and you can just activate them at the time, or you can pick them up and press spacebar, sort of destroy anything on screen. That's cool. There's also rain, and the rain in this game is actually really quite impressive, I thought, the way the rain works in this game. It's intermittent. It's not all the time. It just, sometimes it starts raining. And so when it starts raining, the point of the rain is that you can hide, it hits the leaves. You can hide under the leaves to shield, to sort of basically wait for the rain to pass. Because the blue rain will cool the ball down. So if you've got to a flame and it starts raining, you need to get under a leaf to stop the rain from cooling that ball down, because otherwise you're not going to pass as much heat back into your leg when you get to it. There's also yellow acid rain when you get a bit later. This damages the ball and leg, so if it makes contact with you. But again, this bounces off the leaves above you, so it's worth, you're kind of having to race to find shelter from the rain when that comes. But eventually it just sort of passes like a rainstorm does, and it's gone, and then you can move about again. It's actually quite a cool effect. There's some really nice cool effects like the torch and stuff in this, actually I quite like. There's also these single water drops. Now, these are ultra cold, and if they hit the ball, they just drain it of heat. So and some of them are in really, they drop fast, and kind of get past them is like, so you've got to be careful of them as well. At nighttime as well, you've got an infrared mode. You can turn that on, which basically just kind of shows the screen around you in infrared, but it basically just shows you, so you don't see any of the plants anymore. You just see where you are on the screen, but it makes it harder to navigate, but it makes you invisible to enemies, which is quite cool. You can also fire a flash gun if you have power in your temp thing, I think, and this allows you to gauge jumps and bounces. It says in the instructions. It's a bit nebulous, that, and there's some weird sort of mechanics here that are not quite explained very well in the instructions. You kind of have to play it and see what things do. But that's kind of it, really. You're wandering around these levels, trying to find the heat sources, chucking your ball into them, heating your ball up to bring it back to your leg, to pass energy into your leg. Do that 6 times. That's kind of it. So there is a lot to like here. I mean, not least of all the original concept of the game, which it is, and I do kind of like the eco message of this. It's as subtle as a brick, but it's quite nice to see a game be about something. Back then, we don't really see games that are that sort of have a message or about something, that the world is this, and this game is about that. And whether that's carried on from Iraq, maybe the message there as well, I don't know. But it's interesting to actually have that, to see a game that has some kind of eco theme that is trying to sort of make a comment on the world or something. So there is a sort of theme here that is about something. That's quite impressive, and that's quite nice. The visuals, they're nicely drawn. This is a nicely drawn game. It's an unusual looking game because it has that. It manages to do that thing where it's high res, a lot of high res single color stuff, but it doesn't look like a Spectrum game, which is, it does something like that, which I kind of like and I think is quite cool. And it has a pretty original feel to it. And I have to say, I don't think I've found myself controlling a leg with a basketball in its hip socket very often. That's not something I've done.
That's not something you would say very often.
It's not something I would say very often. It is just, one of those things that I'm controlling a leg, I've got a basketball in a hip socket, and I'm trying to heat my balls up. That's a weird thing that I didn't expect to be doing this week. But here we are, playing games for the podcast. I found myself doing it. But it's unusual. It's unusual. The sprites are well drawn. The leg itself is really well drawn and animated. The ball is nice. Everything looks cool. They all look great. The backgrounds are really nice. Like I said, they've got that high-res look to them. And some of the effects, like I said, like the rain hitting the leaves, the torch, the infrared at night, they're very impressive for a C64 game. They're unusual effects that I don't really think we've seen very much of before. They work really well. They give this game a really unusual feel. Similarly, although the screens scroll, the scrolling, we've seen it really jerky in some games. Nope, it's pretty smooth here. It's smoothly done. It doesn't detract from the exploration of the world because it scrolls early enough for you to see what's coming. So you don't actually ever feel like you don't know what's going to be. And we've seen that flick screen can be a pain, but this scrolling actually works a bit better. The exploration of the world works. I quite enjoyed it. I didn't really mind it. The notion of having to send the ball out to collect the heat, return to leg, is very unusual. I've not come across anything like that before. I think the concept, the visuals, they all come together nicely. This is a well put together, well conceived, well engineered game. There's nothing to do with that. The sound is good. It's got a decent intro and outro tune. The whole thing very well put together. It's nicely coded. It's a multi-load. Doesn't seem too intrusive though, because the levels are quite sizable. So you're moving around them. There's a lot to play at before you have to move on to the next one. It's all good. The main issue I had with this game, and it's something that I sort of touched upon earlier, but I've said it in previous games as well, is the control system. It was the control system for me. I've said before, I don't like imprecise controls in my platformers, and this falls foul of that again. So because you hop. So it's hopping. So time and time again, I tried to make a jump, but fall off a leaf down several screens and have to make my way back up vines to try again. And even with the escape function, trying to position myself into a certain space I still found this troublesome. It's not a huge game. This is a big enough game. The solution's fairly simple to achieve. So I think this has been made more difficult by the control method. I think it's the control method you're fighting against. I didn't like that. That's the thing I had trouble with in this game. I like the concept. I like the exploration. I like the thing of moving around and things like that. But trying to control a hopping leg, when it hops a certain distance, it's that thing of like, you'll hop this far. So I'm stuck in the middle of a leaf and it's like, I want to get to the edge. I have to escape, but have I moved enough to navigate the next jump? And I found it tricky to sometimes navigate around, and there's drops and that really annoyed me. I found myself fighting the controls too often, and it got in the way of me enjoying the game. And this led to frustration and annoyance at what could have been a decent, really pleasant experience. I found that somewhat ruined. It's like, I just want to be able to control my bloody thing. I get it's a leg. I get it hops. But I think if you've included the skate mode, I think it's obvious that they know it's going to annoy people. So my thought was, why not just put the leg on skates and allow you to navigate it with jumps and inertia? Just why not do that? Why have it hopping? I don't know. That was the main bugbear I had about this. The other thing was as well is there's not much to actually do apart from navigate around the screens and throw your ball into flames. So I know we don't like collectathons, that's fine. But I think this could have maybe done with some rudimentary puzzles to solve for navigation. Just something to sort of go, okay, I've got to explore here, because it's pretty open. I didn't find anything that, once I navigated around, it was navigating that was the challenge. There was any puzzles or anything, but the navigating was because of the control system. So you could have had switches to flick, or doors to open, some pits to close. That just something to challenge the player to sort of think, right, how do I get past this bit? There's a thing over there. I've got to change that, or yada yada. Rather than the method here, it says hopping leg. I don't know. And I'm not saying I want loads of objects to collect for puzzles. There could have been other uses for the ball being hot, for instance. Just things that I think you could have done. Burn away overgrown vines to allow you through. You could have used the heat to sort of do things like that. Lighting torches, opening doors, those kind of things. It could have been extra mechanics from that one thing. So a lot you could have got from that single mechanic, a hot ball, but you could have done stuff with that, or even like other things that it could have done. But there's nothing here really beyond that basic heat transference, which it is what it is. But I don't know. It got 75% this. I think that's about right, because I think as a concept, it's pretty good. I just don't think it's been explored well enough. And it's just and I think it could have been better, and that control system's a bit in the way. I applaud the tech. Range great and all the kind of things. I think this is a well put together game. I applaud Thalamus as well for releasing another, weirdly interesting game in 1990 when we get so much shovelware at this point in time. And it reminded me of that, not the way the game is, but the way that they released that snare a few months back, because that was an unusually controlled one and did something different and stuff like that. And they released that and they put that out, and I think that's cool. And I don't know, I just apologise for the pun here sort of thing. I bounced off this one due to those controls, and that was my main thing. It left me a bit frustrated. I think there's a good game here. Just, I don't know, there's a bit more depth to what you had to do, and maybe just a little bit more friendliness with the controls, but you might get on with it. I don't know. What did you think? Apart from it being weird.
So what did I think? Yeah, weird is a word, isn't it? So yes, weird. And a little bit on the kind of, I want to say unapproachable side, but not because it's not a bad game, because it's actually quite a compelling game. It's really weird, isn't it? You find yourself kind of getting into the space of it. Yeah. It is just very trippy, very, very strange. But why not? I thought, why not strange? We've played so many Formula games, and we're going to play another one soon, which I hated, by the way. So we're going to play we've played so many Formula games that when one comes along that is truly non-Formula, and this is in the way that Cauldron 2 was non-Formula at the time. Yes, it's hard to control. Yes, it's very different, but this does have a nice, unique look and feel. It controls okay for what it is. I mean, I've never controlled a robotic leg holding a ball before, but now I have, and I thought the little rotation effect on the ball was quite nice. It's got some nice touches to the animations and the style of it. It looks like a well-animated leg, knee. I don't know. It just, as soon as it started, it said, seek the heat. I was like, what? Okay. There's something very odd about this thing. I like the colour palette because I thought it was completely refreshing. Yes, I know there was a bit of brown on it, all right, for bricks and stuff, but the UI was kind of nice, sort of multicolour. It was a really unusual palette. It's not a palette you see very often in a C64 game, and I like that because we so often see boring colour palettes. So the one thing you could never say about this game is that it was visually boring. It's very interesting. Unfortunately, it's just a bit of a pig to control. Yeah. And I couldn't quite ratify the way you moved between the screens. It was okay, but it sort of was a bit jarring and a little bit sort of breaks the flow of the game a little, maybe. I don't know. It certainly looks like a really nice C64 game. The sound and the audio was all okay as far as I can remember it, but it's not very memorable, so I just don't remember what it was like. But these days, these kind of games like this on a mobile platform, people would be saying how crazy innovative and marvelous it is. Yeah. So and these games, these kind of games do well on mobile devices because they're weird and they're unusual, and it's a leg holding a ball. So I found myself playing it and thinking, I don't know what I'm playing, and I've no real idea of what I'm doing. And I hadn't read through the blurb. I thought I read the first part of the blurb, and I was reminded of Rick and Morty when they explain the plumbus and how a plumbus is made. It's first they take the dingle bop and then smooth it out with a bunch of schleam. And then the schleam is then repurposed for later batches. They take the dingle bop, they push it through the grumbo where the fleeb is rubbed against it. It's important the fleeb is rubbed because the fleeb has all the fleeb juice. It's from that ilk, isn't it?
The Trifilios of Nem.
Yes, well, I mean, and then I was reminded, I don't know if you remember it, and some of our amazing patrons will probably tell us what the Amiga game was, but there was an Amiga game that had a really crazy long intro that was read out by Patrick Moore, so Patrick Moore at the time, and that had the language of that was the same. I remember it was something that the date is the 7th deck of the Lem of Cree or something like that. It was that kind of thing. That. Earth time 5053, and I can't remember something like Lord of Meltikar, Lord of the One Away. Anyway, it reminded me of that. Now, there's nothing wrong with being original and being unique. It's a bit off the wall, and they were clearly smoking heroic doses of the strongest weed they could find. Fine, because you know what? Somehow a game came out of the clouds, and there it is. So I enjoyed it. I think 75%. I think it's a little bit harsh, and I say it's a little bit harsh because it is completely different. Why don't they want to embrace difference? They want to punish indifferent. So games that are boring and rubbish, they sometimes give crappy grades to, crappy marks to. Games that come along that are pushing the envelope of normality, and they are, and this one is, they just give it a good kick in the teeth. I think, well, 75% is 3/4 good. I suppose that's not bad. It's not a bad score for a really unusual game, but I admire Thalamus for sticking that out at 99 because it is like nothing else. So I enjoyed it. I'm not sure why, but I did. And I wasn't sure what I was doing, but I've now controlled a leg. And I quite enjoyed firing that ball at things. It's just, I don't know what it is about the game. It's kind of odd. I would definitely recommend our listeners go and play it. We don't often say that, but I think you have to experience that one to quite believe it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, it's certainly one of the best games we've played in a while in terms of it being very different.
Yes, absolutely. There's another game which it drew to mind as well. I don't know if you ever actually played this. This is a really early C64 game, Bugaboo the Flea.
I remember Bugaboo the Flea. Very
annoying, but had that similar kind of sort of high-res graphic style.
Yeah.
Kind of really annoying control system that, trying to jump up the things. And it was, I mean, that was 1980. I was amazed I found out that was 1983. I thought it was later.
It's an early one.
Yeah, an early one. But it drew, when I was playing it, I was like, there's a bit, when I first put this on, I was like, there's bits of Iraq. This was before I knew he'd made the same thing. And I went, and there's bits of Bugaboo the Flea here that it just reminds me of, because it's that visual style.
Yeah, I mean, I dig it. And he's using a lot of top and bottom border there, isn't he? I think as well, or it looked like he was for a bit. So very clever stuff. It's
cleverly put together game. Don't get me wrong. And there's some really nice elements to it. And I would, like I said, really like some of the graphical effects, the rain, the torch, those kind of things.
Yeah, the rain was good.
Yeah, it's really unusual stuff. But there you go.
Thalamus wouldn't put their name. They didn't put the name just anything. Thalamus, they had a bit of a quality kind of perception, still do, and. So when you saw the Thalamus logo, you kind of thought this has got to have something. I mean, Hunter's Moon's a Thalamus game, isn't it? And Amalite and so many others.
Loads, others. Delta, all those kind of, all the good ones. Snare, as I said. Yeah, unusual one. Heatseeker. I don't think we'll ever see something like that again.
No. And a football game.
A proper football game, yeah. Yeah. The first of 3 this week. And probably the best of the lot. And there we go. So there you go. The first of our 3 football games this week. That's Heatseeker. It's pretty good. It's unusual. Just that control system may get you. But
it's Mr. McClegg's game, isn't it?
with a leg for an arm and an arm for a leg.
There it is.
It is indeed. Oh, there we go. Go try it. Go try it. You see what you think. Let's move on. We've still got one more game this half. And Graham, it's over to you for, what we'll say, a traditional football game. Tell us all about Manchester United.
This was published by Chrysalis, and it was coded by Barry Costas and Jason Scott. Now, when I read that, for some reason, I just read Barry Scott. Hi, I'm Barry Scott. Bang, and the dirty's gone. Barry Scott. Bang, bang, bang. Do you see that techno remix that they did of him? Bang, bang. Anyway, so it's coded by Barry Costas, Jason Scott. This is the only thing they coded, according to the Lemon. Graphics are by Jason Wilson. He did Pac-Mania and Shadow Warriors. Recent, that was, wasn't it? Shadow Warriors.
Very much so.
And the musician is Matt Furness. May as well be, because he's doing everything now, isn't he? So it's everything. Box art, of course. Box art, really, for this. Steinerlund. I don't know. It's kind of Manchester United. So, right, now I'm going to caveat all of this initially by saying, firstly, I don't really like football that much, as we probably know from the many games that I've played and gone, and I don't know much about football either. B, I know even less about Manchester United.
I'd have expected to do some in-depth research into them, Graham.
I did some research, but do you know what? I didn't want to Google Manchester United because I knew what would happen, because I'd just get inundated with all the Manchester United crazy. I've got a couple of interesting little tales and facts and things. And I actually had trouble finding the instructions for the C64 version, but in actuality, I found the Amiga instructions. And to be fair, you don't really need a lot of instructions because it's kind of fairly self-explanatory. Because we've seen this kind of game before.
Absolutely.
Really. This is not doing nothing new. Now, Manchester United, the game, the football game, then there's another variation of this called Manchester United Europe, which is really annoying when you're searching for one game called Manchester United. By the way, searching for a game called Manchester United, kind of crazy that. So you'll load the game up, and this is a football management and action arcade game combined. And you can actually choose that kind of game in the options that are hidden in the depth of icons and menus in this opening part of this game. So you can actually change that. But the idea of this game is that you can manage Manchester United, or a version of Manchester United, and you can take them into leagues and, play football. That's the nature. That's what the plan was. That's what they set out to do. And so you'll initially choose a language. The game's a multi-language. It's a multi-disc game, isn't it? So it's one disc, two sides, I believe.
Yes.
Which is kind of incredible when you think, I suppose maybe there's a lot of Manchester United logic in it, or maybe there's a lot of like, I don't know, sort of Mancunian accents that are required in there, but and all that kind of thing, going on in, I don't know, anyway. So the game will load, you choose the language, and then you'll get presented with a grey screen in the background with some icons on it.
Yes.
Now, I don't know, I just thought Manchester United would be quite a colourful thing.
No, it's great.
It's just great. It's great. I mean, okay, I get what they were trying to do. And the Amiga version obviously has the ability to blur the background, which would make the icons stand out. Not so much the C64, though, does it?
No.
They're just kind of thrown on there they are. So you'll be presented with the Manchester United logo in the centre of the screen, and that's surrounded by a series of icons, which you will dive into different menus to do stuff. Remember, the principle of this game is that you have to set up and run Manchester United, or they already exist, but run them as the manager, and then you will then play games, and you can take part in said games. And I say participate. We'll come to that. So on the initial screen, you've got 8 icons, 3 across the top, 1 either side of the Manchester logo and Manchester United logo, and then 3 across the bottom. And some of these icons are quite hard to define, and some lead to other menus with other icons on, which is odd. Icons that some of them don't really mean anything, but okay. So when it first loads, and now I have to say, and I'm coming from a bit of an old hack UI designer, I don't quite understand the prioritization that was given to the ordering of these icons. For me, it seems a bit arbitrary.
Yep.
Because I would have expected the one that looks like the squad to be about the squad and details of the squad. And I suppose it is. So you can click on that and it tells you about your team. And you can do each of these things comes like a text menu. And then you can click on each individual items and get the kind of stats for the players. Now, we've discussed this many times before. I don't know who the players are. I don't know how good they were. And I have no idea what the stats represent because they don't mean anything.
Nope.
If someone has 10 ability, unless you explain what the ability score is somewhere and say, right, so 1 is crap, 10 is very good. Unless you do that, it's arbitrary. So I assumed that the higher number meant they were better, the lower number meant they were not as good.
I'm guessing that's kind of the way, yeah.
So you'll do that, and so you can check that out, and you can sort of see your current squad and do stuff like that. Next to that is a little red cross icon. It looks like a little medicine box. That tells you if your players are injured. Of course, you don't start with injured players. At least I didn't. Maybe you do, and then I don't know. I didn't. And then to the right of that, there's a whistle with a red card and a yellow card under it. And that's whether you've got players that are currently suspended or not. Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, I didn't start with any suspended, but that's, I imagine, where they go if they get suspended. The next icon down is the one on the left of the Manchester United logo. That's the newspaper. Now, that newspaper made me laugh because that was the Daily Sport. Daily Sport was never a good newspaper to be putting anything.
No, it wasn't. Manchester United team found on moon.
Exactly. That's the kind of headlines you're going to get in there, isn't it? I married a cream cracker, that kind of thing.
Cream cracker found in Manchester United shorts.
Yeah, exactly. Scored the most goals. So it's the newspaper. Now, I don't know what the purpose of the newspaper is. I'm guessing that at some point during the games, as it plays out, things happen and there's headlines. What the outcome of that is and the purpose, I guess. This game, basically, you can buy and trade, and you can sell and buy and scout for new players, like you can in the other games of this type. So he's not doing anything that the other games don't do. But I think maybe sometimes if the players are involved in a scandal or something like that, then their value is affected and you can't sell them for as much. Maybe there's something to do with that. I guess. I didn't get that far into it to find out, I have to say, but I imagine that's what that's for. Mm-hmm. To the right of that is a car door, I think. I'm not sure what it is. It's quite hard. It looks like a purple. I don't know what it is. Do you know what that was? I couldn't identify it. I was really struggling with that.
I don't know. What did it do behind the scenes? What did it do?
So that takes you to another screen with 3 icons on it. The icon on the top left, which is like a little a guy holding his hand up saying exit, is somewhere you can sell players, I think, and buy players and transfer them and scout. And then that's the book icon on the right. The icon on the left is a little guy holding up exit. But I thought that was the exit to the previous menu, but it's not. Nor is it the exit out of the game. It's the sell players. So exit is sell players. To the right, which is a book icon, is buy players and view and transfer and scout. And then there's a little icon at the bottom that says AB. And that's to go back to the first menu. I'm like, were you on a bad day? You design these icons or something. Just exit. It's just, go back anyway, what does it matter? So you go back after you've gone through those items. I imagine that if you want to buy players and do that, that's what you would do. Then you're back in the main menu again. The bottom left icon is a disc. Now I thought, that's obvious what that's going to be, and it's save. That takes you to another menu of icons. So And in that menu of icons, obviously you can save the options. So you can save the game. You can change the options of the game. So you can set the game time, change the name of the manager, which is fun if you want to do that. Change the name of the players, which I imagine is something we've not seen in many of the football games, where you can actually change the names of the players to your mates and stuff like that, which just give this a little extra boost at this point. You can set the difficulty in the game type. So that's where you can change it from management to arcade. Or so you can have just one or the other. You won't ever want to do that, but you might. I don't know. And then there's a ball icon as well. So that's the disc one. So and then there's a little go back. You can go back there. So when you go to the save menu, you get another load of icons. One of them is a disc. Another one is a disc with an up arrow. So one is download, one is upload. One is in sort of save, and one is load in. And then you've got the other options. You can go back to the main menu, and then you've finally got two icons. So there's one on the right hand side now. I'm not 100% sure what that was. It was either an arm holding a weight, like a dumbbell.
It's an arm holding a dumbbell. I can see what it is. Yeah, that's what it is. I'm glad you said that, because my initial thought was that it's something else. Was it a leg and a ball again?
Well, it just looks a bit odd. It looked a bit flaccid, and I was like, "What? I don't know if I want to click on that." Anyway, it's the training part, obviously. So you get a training diary, so then you can select players to do training, which obviously then boosts their scores, which means they get better at stuff or get injured. If you carefully do that. All a bit arbitrary though, this, because you can just choose to do these things, and then you've really any idea what you're doing this for. And this is my problem with many of these games, is that you can set people into training, but the purpose of the training is to make the team better, fine. But how does it do that? How does that show you that? How does it? Because it doesn't. Next time you look at the chart, Ben Kingsley's his agility is now 7. I don't know why I chose Ben Kingsley, by the way. No idea, but maybe he played for Manchester United at some point. Who knows?
Not sure he did. Don't think he did.
Anyway, suffice to say, you can train your team.
Gandhi.
So amongst all of the icons, then you've got the basics of changing your players, picking your players, doing all that. This is before you've even got to the game. So you click on the ball icon at the bottom. That takes you to another menu of icons. So on this one, you've got 3 icons. You've got the AB icon, which is to go back. You don't want to press that. For God's sake, don't press that. You've got the div icon at the top left, which is your division and your fixtures, and that tells you which teams you go up against and something like that. Some options in there that you can do stuff with. I didn't mess with them. By this point, I was desperately trying to find a way to start the game. To the right-hand side of the icon, there's a little tiny little football pitch icon, which leads you to your formation options. And you've got the classic formation option. Is there more than this? There's 4-4-2, 4-3-3, 4-2-4, 1-3-3-3, and a 2-3-5.
1-3-3-3. That'd be that's a sweeper formation.
I believe I take your word for it. But you can choose those out of that. But that's all you can choose. And then so that's what you do. You choose. And by the way, when you go from the icons to the screens where you're selecting stuff, this is all joystick controlled. So you've got a joystick controlled arrow, and you move this around with the joystick, which is a bit laborious in C64 games.
Yes,
we've said this loads of times. It would have been easy just to flick between the icons, actually. But anyway,
at least it never changes.
Frustrating as it is. No, it's the same. It's the same. But then when you go to the text option screen, so when you go through the icons and the grey graphics and the Manchester United logo and the tiny icon, most of the selection screens beyond that are actually text screens, just screens of text in the center of the screen with little exit options or change player. And you've got to click on those words with the little arrow icon. And that's a bit frustrating because it's kind of piggly and narrow and a bit nyeh. So you go from graphics and icons to text a lot. And this is all management. Now, the problem here is you're not managing anything. You are just selecting options of stuff. That's not management. And this game is simply you select stuff and you play football. Select stuff and play football. Now, maybe that is management. I don't know. But there's no tactics to any of this, and nor does anything you choose, with the exception of the way you can choose the formation, seem to have any bearing. Not that you'd know that you were in that formation, because you've got no way of knowing. No way of knowing.
No.
Once you've gone through all of that, and this is, what was the other game where we had a sea of options before we got to the bloody football game? It reminded me, was the Adidas one, wasn't it?
Adidas Football Challenge, whatever it was.
It's not as slow as that, but the
no,
Adidas
it's
Challenge.
Not. At least this isn't a multi-load. I didn't notice, I don't think.
Well, yeah, it is a multi-load on disc.
Oh, is it loading the game?
Yes, of course it does. So you click on the select team at that point. So you go to select team. You then you choose your formation. Then you choose the actual team. So you got to choose your goalie. You got to choose this. Now at this point, it was getting completely arbitrary for me. I had no idea who I picked. So I was just like, oh, you'll do. So I could have had people in the wrong positions. Didn't matter anyway. Just thought, you'll do.
Players.
Yeah, just kept clicking on them until it stopped. That was my. I can just do this picture and go, why am I in goal? I'm not a goalie. And anyway,
I'm Brian McClare. I'm a centre forward.
No idea. So who I picked or anything else, and no idea what who they were. Anyway, so there was loading happened then. So after all that options, there was loading. And I thought, well, this better bloody pay off now because this is the classic Ringler method.
Yeah.
So all the options, and you get to the game, you're like, ugh. So the game actually has a sort of starting screen where you get like a football pitch. You got the Manchester United on the left, and I was playing Derby County in my first game. I don't know if they're a good team or not. I would never know. So, and I lived in Derby for a while as well, and I still don't know. Anyway, sorry, Derby people. So it said it was a league match, first half of the game. Now, the game, for some reason, the time on it was 1.5 minutes, which I imagine is the fastest football game known to man.
Yeah, it's not long.
I thought that was the default time. I'm like, well, that seems really short, even for a football game.
Yep.
Anyway, so you get this graphic of the pitch, this sort of pitch, and then the stand in the background with those see little faces. It's not terrible. It's not great. It's very Chernobyl, but it is there, and it stops at that point until you decide to press the start button, fire button on the controller, and then the game will begin. Football game. You think, hey, football, and it has promise at the start. It has a bit of promise. The players run on. It's this now unusual configuration. It's top down, left to right. I'm like, yeah, okay, that's a bit weird because I'm used to top down, up and down.
Yeah, we've only seen this once before in that kickoff game. But
Kickoff game, yes, and we didn't like it in kickoff, and there's reasons not to like it because it's not the right way to do it. It feels weird.
It does.
So there's a pitch type effect. Grass looks okay from a kind of a game view.
Yeah.
You've got no idea where your players are. The team, obviously, you're in red and the opposing team were in white. Now, obviously, I think there's a coin toss. I can't remember. I seem to remember maybe I was thinking of kickoff too. But anyway, whether it doesn't matter, the game starts, the match starts. And then you'll find yourself getting quite frustrated quite quickly, but it's over with quite quickly as well with 1.5 minutes.
Yeah.
I found myself wanting to play this and not really being able to for a few reasons. First reason was that the opposing team I was playing were clearly racehorses because they were like Olympiads that could run at 1,000 miles an hour. I could not catch them up. I couldn't. Mm-hmm. If they got the ball, that was it. There was no way getting it off them. Not a single way. And they always got the ball. No matter what I did, no matter how I tackled them, no matter how I tried to get near them, I could not. Now, maybe I should have done more training. Maybe that would have improved things. I don't know. Maybe I had the wrong plays in the wrong spots. I don't know. But I could not get near that ball with them. Now, they had several shots on my goal, and by some miracle, I'd saved it. But it just felt completely uncontrollable. Now, the problem was that there's like an auto selection system for when it selects a player for you when you are nearest the ball. So when the ball lands, you'll have a player near it, and it flashes just a slight shade of grey. So it flashes slightly. Now it flashes. There's not loads of players on the screen. There's enough players to be busy, and it feels like a lot of things chasing after the ball. It's like wasps actually around a bit of shit. You're trying to clear them out. Look, get away! I'm trying to pick up a dog shit or whatever. Anyway, bad analogy, but it's the problem is it doesn't change to your player quick enough, not in a responsive enough time for you to be able to react to the ball being near you. So by the time the ball's landed and it's chosen a player for you, the enemy, the opposition have already got the ball and they're off. And when they're off like racehorses, so you got no chance of catching up with them. Mm-hmm. And I found this quite a lot with this game, that no matter how near I got with players, it was never seemed to be selecting a player that was near enough to the ball in a time frame that meant I could get it. So the auto player selection is a fraction just too slow, a few frames too slow, which means you don't feel like you can get the ball and in control and be in control of it. And then when you do, you have the ball for no time, literally no time at all. Mm. So it's impossible to do that. Apart from I keep saying enemy players, not enemies, are they? Apart from the opposing team players being like cheaters and being impossible, you're only playing a half of a minute and then it was all over with and it was the next half and I just could not get into it. Now, on top of all that, there's no sound in this game other than if you score or the feeps of the whistle and things like that. There's no crowd sound other than, like I say, if you get a goal or something, but there's nothing else. It's another one of those weirdly silent football games. So you'll go through all of that. You'll get you spend your cozy 2 minutes being frustrated by the controls that you seem to just be flashing at you with lots of players running around like wasps and no real way of getting the ball. And then before you even blink, that's it. Game over. End of half. You think, what happened? Next minute, end of half. 1 minute gone. That's it. Done. Back to the menu and the icons and all the options again. Mm-hmm. I thought, what a frustrating experience that really is. So the options don't pay off. They don't add up to anything. The graphics are all right on the menus, I suppose, but the icons are meaningless and also weirdly splattered all over the place. Text is hard to pick up when it's just black on grey anyway, but picking the options by a controller like a joystick, not very exciting. There's decent music on all of that bit, I suppose, but that's the only thing that sort of keeps you interested in that bit. You'll go through all those options to get confronted with a pretty boring game that's so rapid. I mean, I suppose you could change that, but that's so rapid and so unresponsive to the controls and fairness of the player that it doesn't feel like you're playing any kind of Manchester United that I would have heard of. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know. I've never seen Manchester United play a game against racehorses, and I imagine they'd lose if they did. But that's what it felt like. It just felt like you were completely and utterly at the mercy of a computer CPU player that was ridiculously fast. And I couldn't control or get the hold of the ball. And that meant I didn't really have much fun with it. Not the first time this is going to happen in a football game. Maybe it's more me, I don't know. But it's not a very good football game. It's way better out there at this point. There seems to be loads of these now. Another dreary attempt. 67 at 3/4 good. I don't think there's enough management in it to be good at managing. There's not enough arcade football to be good at that. So it sits in a kind of dirty crust. So I would never have bought this anyway when I was buying games anyway. I would never have bought a football game other than later on the Amiga. So for me, this is a complete waste of time. I'm calling full time and I give myself a red card. But what about you?
What do I think? Well, right. What is it with football games and radial menus these days?
I don't know.
There's loads. Was it like the design choice of the time? Was there some kind of like period where like, oh, your menus have to be radial? Was your football game sneered upon if you didn't have a load of icons in a circle to choose from? We've seen it in like Football of the Year, Football of the Year 2. There was that one with the bent goalkeeper. This one, all of them. It's just weird. And
Are they trying to emulate a TV feel? TV show feel?
I don't know. And it's weird as well on the C64. It doesn't feel right to have to use an arrow with an arrow to choose from. It's like, anyway. I mean, I'm not going to go through the menus. You've done a man's job in explaining what they all do. Although I think I pressed a button that somehow led to something went a bit awry when I played this, because after fighting my way to a match between Man United and Aston Villa, I was losing at half time. So I was playing the team in white against the team in red. Okay. And I thought, maybe Aston Villa, they kind of play red, purple, Man U maybe away. I was like, okay. But I didn't know what happened. But at half time, I found out I was actually playing as Aston Villa and not Manchester United.
Yeah.
But I picked Man U's players before the match.
Yeah. I'm wondering if that might have been what my problem was then, because I couldn't figure out why I couldn't control it. Maybe I was just looking at the wrong team.
Yeah, so because if you were saying they flash grey, the white one's flash grey, the red one's flash pink. The red one's the Man U, because Man U scored. So I thought, because the red team scored, and I was like, so when it got to half time, Man U were 1-0 up. I thought this was a game about controlling Man U. I was very confused at this point. And it made more sense to me because my exactly what you said, my team ran around the pitch like confused donkeys, and Man United danced through my defence like ballerinas. They were just off. You couldn't catch them. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. So as for the football itself, I mean, it is what it is. It's not brilliant. It's got, like you said, that top-down horizontal thing going on. I guess it does work better than it did in Kickoff. So of the two left to right horizontal top-down football games, this is the better one. That's not saying much, though. I guess the players are well drawn. They're animated for the most part. The scrolling seemed okay. The ball physics seemed okay. As far as but I don't know why I wasn't playing as Man U. I thought, why am I not playing as Man U? That's the whole point, isn't it?
That's what I would have thought, yeah.
Yeah. The problem with this is that I'd have never have played this, not ever, and I didn't like playing it now because I'm not a Man U fan. In fact, I hate them. So no matter how good this is, it would have never have interested me ever, ever. The only thing I'll say is it's better than the other traditional football game. Not the best football game this week, but it's better than the other traditional football game we'll look at this week, because we do have another one to look at after in the third part. Sorry, but this was too much front end, and then 1 minute of play. It's like, wow, ridiculous. It kicked off with, they scored, they went, half time. And when they scored, the clock still counted down as the ref ran the ball back to the centre circle. I was like, wow, this is rubbish. But yeah, it's, I mean, if you like it, whatever. The weird thing is that on Lemon, most people are saying about this, great management sim, but terrible football. I was like, I thought this was a football game playing.
Yeah, maybe I should have changed the options a bit.
I don't know. I tried. I looked around, but they're so obtuse. It's like, what's that image mean? What's this? Yeah. Anyway, 67%, maybe. I don't know.
Did you check the Amiga version out, by the way?
No, I did not.
So the Amiga version's got like linesmen, corners, referee running about. It's got quite a lot of football-y stuff you don't normally see in these kind of games. So that was quite interesting. Other than that, it was
this had a ref, corners, throw-ins and stuff. None of that was missing.
Yeah, but there was like little linesmen putting the flags up, and it's just it's stuff little things you don't normally see in the football game. They're kind of in that.
Fair enough. Anyway, there you go. That's Man U. So that's our games for this part. That's 2 football games. They couldn't be more different if they tried. They really couldn't. We're going to go take a quick break, and we'll be back where we'll be looking at TV and film. from September 1990. So please do stick with us. And we're back. So, September 1990, what were we watching on the small screens and on the big screens? Well, 1st September, Graham, if you were one of those lucky people to have had a Sky satellite, Sky Movies began broadcasting 24 hours a day. Previously, the channel had broadcast shopping programs between 6 a.m. and 2 p.m. Movies all day. This is the future. Future, Graham.
Wall-to-wall movies. Yeah.
Wall-to-wall movies. I wonder what the movies were. I couldn't find a listing. Did you find it? Could you find one?
I didn't, because they weren't Fox at this point, were they? So,
no.
Quite what movies it would have been, I don't know. Not great ones, I would have thought. Not your classics, I don't think. But I mean, it's an important change in the way that Sky TV channels would later operate, because they now are all wall-to-wall. That's just what they do.
Yes.
The idea of it switching to a shopping channel, and by the way, those shopping channels are stupid. But just switching to those, they really are.
Yeah, they really are.
But the idea of it switching to those god awful infomercials is kind of crazy. I'm glad now they still do that on some channels. You still, if you're cursed and awake at some ungodly hour and you're flicking through the channels, or you're in a hotel somewhere where you know that you've only got the weird channels, you're flicking through the channels and you'll come across the infomercials for the X5 super mop and the food blenders and the juicers and all that weird stuff.
Well, we all know, just moving on to the 2nd September, we all know the best TV adverts for crazy products were in this, because the long-running US animated series The Simpsons was broadcast in the UK for the first time, making its debut on Sky One. Call of The Simpsons is the first episode to be shown on Sky TV. So yeah, just you talking about the shopping channel reminds me of the juice loosener.
The juice
You mean there's a better way?
Homer's even doing that, isn't he? At the same time, he's like squashing it in his head,
squashing the lemon, squashing the orange on his head. Yeah. So yeah, the Simpsons star and 1,000 quotes and references, and comedy was when it began. I mean, I don't know what I think I'd be the most unfunniest man alive if it weren't for the Simpsons.
How many series are they up to now? Is it 40, 30 odd?
30 odd, I think. Well, this was 1989 stats. I think it's 35, 36 now.
That's incredible.
It is. But I mean, we all know the only good ones are 1 to 8 or 2 to 8. That period in the 90s, from about 91 to 99, which was just comedy gold. It's just comedy gold. So much stuff. And I don't want to get into a quote-a-thon, but if you had to pick like one episode from that period, if I put you on a spot, what would it be?
Oh, God. From that period, probably be the Bobo episode, I think.
You couldn't tug at my fare.
Exactly. It's a tribute to the Orson Welles movie.
Citizen Kane, yeah.
Yeah, so that one, it's probably called Citizen something as well, I thought, but I don't know. That's the one that springs to mind. There's so many, there's literally hundreds that make me laugh in their own special way. So.
I think
the X-Files one is another good one.
That's mine. The gag ratio per minute in that is just off the charts.
The monorail episode as well.
Deep Space Homer.
It's easy to forget about the first 10 seasons of The Simpsons. Every now and again, you need to go back. Even in the first season, you've got the one where Homer gets stuck up in the H2O ride. Yeah. Nothing that big could be human.
I'll get you, Midler.
That's Mount Splashmore, isn't it? I want to go to Mount Splashmore. That one, yeah.
Take me now.
Croon along with Krusty. There's a lot of crazy shenanigans and all those, and all the Halloween specials as well are really good up to season 10 as well. So.
Yeah. It generally was the best TV around at that point. I remember because our friend at the time used to get them and bring them round to yours on a Sunday evening, I seem to recall, and that was a Sunday evening ritual just to all me, you, Gary, Rickers at the time would just sit and watch them and just howl with laughter. Yeah,
I mean, crazy as it might seem, I mean, that guy taped every episode of The Simpsons. He had hours of it.
Just bring them round, and we would just be in absolute hysterics. Yeah. So good. An institution. 7th September, though, after an 8-year absence, the Generation Game returned to BBC One. This is how you fight the Simpsons. The Generation Game with Bruce Forsyth as its returning host and Rosemary Ford as its hostess. Life is the name of the game, and I want to play a game with you. I think that's it, isn't it?
That's there, something like that, yeah. So Bruce Forsyth at this point was about 650 years old. He's doing quite well. But he used to periodically just nip off stage and drink the blood of somebody. Precious blood.
Probably. Maybe he didn't. Maybe he did. Probably the blood of Paul Daniels.
But not a lot.
So, yes, the generation game. It's one of those people doing crazy things, isn't it?
Well, it was much loved and much revered. And then it was Larry Grayson for a while, and he was much loved. It was one of those shows that kind of everyone liked it. And back then, old men and that, it was wasn't many channels and there wasn't a lot on them. So this kind of entertainment show was kind of Saturday night fodder. People would gather around. Families, we used to watch it as a family.
Yeah.
And my mum and dad would be sat laughing their heads off at the crappy, because at the end of it, they're shown a conveyor belt of items and they have to remember them and then they have to recite them, and the ones they recite correctly, they win.
Yeah.
Then there was always like a cuddly toy on there and stuff like that, and a tease made set and all these weird prizes that I never even knew existed. I learned about products and things from these shows. Trouser press, yeah, and decanters. I've never seen so many crystal decanters. And
so many crystal decanters.
Them? And then about, we went to Scotland on holiday as a kid, and my mum was determined to buy a crystal decanter. We got one. I'm like, wow, we've got a crystal decanter. What do you do with them? And it's like, you just lay them, put them on like a side, and you lay them out in like an arrangement, and that's it. You never use them. And it's like, can we use them? No, never, don't touch them. Ever touch the crystal glasses, and never break the little knobbly bit on top of the decanter. Never use them. Like, just like, what did we buy them for if we can't use them? It's ornaments. It's like, right, okay, whatever. Don't touch the decanter.
That's the generation game. It was just one of those things. We had a decanter as well.
Everyone had, you're not allowed to sit, not allowed to touch it. Don't touch the damn decanter.
It had some brown liquid in.
Yeah, some brandy that's maybe from, who knows what it was.
Some brown liquid from a Christmas long forgotten.
I'm telling you what that was. If you drank that, that's like the stuff in the Lost Boys. You're a vampire after you drink that.
Yeah.
This time, AD, try it, AD, try it. Oh God, give it here. It's not bloody vampire blood.
Oh no, sent to a vampire.
Quick, show it your cross. Get out of here, you idiot. Not like that. Oh.
Oh, ba-dum-dum. Oh dear. Oh, I feel quite tainted with that joke. 8th of September. I'm moving on. Ahead of the UK broadcast of the 1000th episode of Neighbours, BBC One airs Neighbours' 1000th episode celebration, a TV special produced by Australia's Network 10, which brought together past and present cast members to mark the occasion.
Aye.
Yeah, so celebrate it twice.
Yeah, because it would have been on the 1000th episode. It's not easy to say, is it? The episode 1000 would have been on way earlier in Australia, so for them, it was probably episode 1,360 by the time we got to it.
Yeah,
so we're
absolutely.
Like, what the bloody hell are they doing?
But like I said, it was during that short time period where Australia had Jimmy two times as their prime minister. That's why.
Can you imagine what happened to, if they re-record it, they'd have to pretend. Hey, episode 1000 again.
Again. Yep. 10th of September, Thundercats returns to BBC One with the second half of the first series. However,
Stupid.
Graham, because of the concerns involving the use of weapons brought about by Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles, the next batch of episodes will have all scenes of Panthro with his nunchucks entirely cut out.
So they were really weirdly obsessed with nunchucks.
Nunchucks were they were the enemy du jour of the right wing, whatever.
Did you know anyone that owned any? Actually, I'll tell you, like, in my teens, I knew somebody who actually had some legitimately, but did you go to school in fear of the nunchuck gang? These things didn't happen. They were nowhere. They were an invisible enemy.
Well, that's because they weren't seen anywhere. The censorship did its job.
My point is that at no point, even when people were witnessing these things, did anyone go out and make any. It's not like they saw a Ninja Turtle and go, wow, that weapon looks great. I need some of them. And nor did anyone watch Thundercats, watch Panthro wield his nunchucks. I mean, the other guy's got a metallic whip with ball clackers at the end. That's way more dangerous. way
more dangerous. He's got, Lino's got a massive sword. You do way more damage than you could with some nunchucks.
Absolutely. So anyway, you need expertise to wield nunchucks. You can't just spin around and hope for the best. They're going to knock you out.
And I knew people with swords.
Yes, I knew. Yeah, I did. Yeah, I mean, I knew people who had these weapons, but they weren't careless with them. They weren't dangerous to anyone. Maybe themselves.
Yeah.
But and the annoying thing about all of that, on top of the fact that they cut a cartoon, for goodness sake, you stupid idiots. But they'd already renamed one, hadn't they? Yeah. But they didn't even show the second half of the first series. Just shows you how lame it was when they bought the first half of the first series, showing the exciting first half of Thundercats. Show it all, you stupid idiots. They were famous for it, though. BBC, ITV, they only ever bought bits of cartoon shows, and then they repeated them a lot, which is why you never quite saw a whole, with the exception of D'Artagnan, and Willy Fogg, where they showed the entire series from start to finish.
30th September, the Big Sky B channel Galaxy, now this is something in it, is the pilot episode of Heil Honey,
no.
I'm Home, a controversial sitcom featuring a fictionalized Adolf Hitler and Eva Braun.
Oh my gosh.
The show attracts much criticism and is cancelled after one episode. Several other episodes were recorded, but none have ever been broadcast.
Good. Honestly, I cannot fathom the stupidity that was involved in making that show, thinking it'd be funny. Nothing about that stuff is funny. Oh, it's just, it's an abomination. I mean, goodness me. The fact that they broadcast one episode tells you how completely out of touch with reality they were for a time. And reality came back with a great big kick in the knackers, I think, after that. Absolutely shocking. And the fact that it's on YouTube, I mean, goodness me. There's nothing funny about any of that.
New shows. On the 1st September, there was the new adventures of Black Beauty.
Yeah.
Lovely tune. It's a nice show, isn't it, about a horse?
Yeah, what does he do, though?
It's just beautiful.
Yeah, what does it do, though? What does it do? What use is it?
I don't know.
It's loose in fields. It's not pulling carts. Nobody's riding it.
It's the horse of 1,000 uses.
Exactly. Absolutely ridiculous.
I
mean, my sister was well into Black Beauty. She really liked horses, horse riding and all that, well into it.
There you go.
So this was, these episodes which are quite traumatic. Horses in peril, always a pretty scary experience for someone that likes horses, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, you're traumatized by Atreyu, is it? Going in that swamp and all that?
Oh, yeah, Neverending Story, yeah.
Exactly. So I think there's episodes where Black Beauty's trapped in a warehouse or a barn or something, it's on fire on a bog, I don't know. But yeah, the music's the best thing about it. And there's lots of shots of a horse running through a field, but the book is told from the horse's POV.
That's weird. That's weird.
Yeah.
That's an odd. I've never read the book, so I've no idea.
So the first entry on the first page is that the farmer came to give me hay, and I said, nay, nay, nay.
I'm hoping it is. It's a better start than Call Me Ishmael. As classic openings to books go. It was the worst of times. It was the best of times.
Exactly.
The farmer hadn't given me any hay today.
Yeah, jockey said, I need some new shoes. And I said, nay, nay, nay. There are songs about it and everything.
Absolutely. Okay. 3rd of September, Rosie and Jim. Rosie and Jim. I hate you this.
They're the only words I remember of the song, which is a bit obvious.
I shouldn't have really been watching it. I was 18 by this point, but if I caught kids' TV, it was like, this is rubbish.
It is rubbish. They're on a sail barge, aren't they? And then adventures happen.
Yeah.
What adventures there can be on a sail barge? I've been on a sail barge.
There's not many adventures aside from emptying the septic tank.
It is the most boring thing to do. That's the reason why they call it the Norfolk boards. I'm telling you.
4th September, On the Up. I don't know what this is. What is it?
Terry Strong is what it is.
It's got Terry Strong. Do you know what it's about? What's it about?
It's about a guy, I think he's won a lot of money, or he's come into a lot of money, or has he lost a lot of money? I don't know, actually.
I don't know. It's about a failure of a millionaire's marriage and his relationship with assorted live-in staff.
There you go. But I don't know if it's a comedy or not, but it's very difficult to find decent episodes of it. I found a little sort of mini YouTube video about it, I guess, but anyway, it's got Terry Strong in it, and I found this picture of him going, and that's as much as I thought was possible to put in there.
He did. He didn't look very strong there. Looks like he's had some strong cider.
That hair, honestly, it's just like, you just want to comb it.
Comb and cut it. Pick a style. Just pick one.
I think Terry Strong sang the opening music, sang the song for
no, don't tell me. Did I Should Be So Good For You?
Yeah, Dennis Waterman did it. Yeah, Terry Strong did the song.
I am on the up for you. Dun, 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 dun. We've heard this tune before, Terry.
All right, Terry, calm down.
7th September is the Piglet Files.
Yeah, don't know.
Rodney Trotter as an MI5 agent. It's Nicholas Lyndhurst.
Is it a cartoon kids show or something? What is it?
No. So this is a sitcom.
Oh no, he was good in Good Night Sweetheart, but not this.
Yeah, and he's Rodney Trotter. He's not going to be an MI5 agent, is he?
No,
I can't. That's suspension of disbelief too far. You've been typecast.
No, rubbish. Never watched it.
8th of September, Unsolved Mysteries started. It came over from the US.
Kind of shows. I hate those kind of shows.
Yeah, this ran for years, 1987 to 2002. 2008 to 2010, and then back in 2020. I mean, this is literally was Jack the Ripper a 60-foot sea serpent?
Yeah, it is that kind of crazy crap.
Yeah, absolutely. The real unsolved mystery there is how this ran for so long. That's what
We found a crystal skull of Magul. Oh, right. Okay.
But those shows as well are about 5% content, which they just repeat after the ads, before the ads, show what's coming up again. It's like,
in a moment,
God.
we'll talk about the crystal skull of Magul. Yeah, I found a skull in my garden. It was the crystal skull of Magul. He just said that he found a skull in his garden. We'll be back in a moment to see what he did with the skull.
In the first half, we spoke about the crystal skull of Magul. Yeah, I found this crystal skull. As you can hear, we talk about it. Oh, get on with it.
That's what they're like, those shows all the time, aren't they?
Dead annoying. Must be a nightmare to edit, because I'm so bored of it. I've just edited the same sequence. 5 minutes of footage into an hour. You are a genius.
In next week's episode, we'll talk more about the crystal skull of Magul.
I found the crystal skull.
Yeah, he found a skull in his garden as well.
You won't believe what I found in next door's garden. Coming up next week. This week we look at what he found in next door's garden. I found in, you won't believe it, after the break. You won't believe it. Oh, God, get to it.
And then you get the continuity announcers over the end credits. In next week's episode, they'll discover the secret skull of Magul in someone else's garden.
Perhaps.
Won't that be good?
Who knows? 14th of September. Bump. It's an animated elephant. It's 5-minute cartoons, animated elephants.
Yeah. For kids, not for me.
19th September, Portrait of a Marriage.
Sounds
British
exciting.
television mini-series detailing the real-life love affair between Vitas Sackville-West and Violet Keppel.
Who?
I don't know. Keppel. Next week, we find out.
I never found a crystal skull
in Violet Keppel's garden. Get out my garden. Next week, we find out why Violet Keppel doesn't want him in his garden. 21st September, Paddington Bear. This has been Americanized, which I never realized. I've never seen this version.
Nope, totally not Paddington Bear.
No, this was created by Hanna-Barbera and in association with Central Independent Television.
Awful.
Yeah, it teams up with an American boy named David.
Of course he does.
What were they thinking?
No. Paddington is not that and never will be. So, no. Paddington Bear sat and had dinner with the Queen during the thingy, and that's what we like. That's Paddington I like, that one.
It is, yeah. 22nd September, Baa. More animated elephants.
Yeah,
based on the books.
Yeah.
24th September, it's Cannon and Ball's Playhouse.
Yeah, I can't imagine anything worse.
I watched this one. I found an episode of it. And to my horror, there's a couple of bits in it that actually made me laugh.
Oh, no. I thought it might be.
I was like, it's actually quite funny. But it's dreadful. It was dreadful. But I will say that Bobby Ball ended up in that Lee Mack show, didn't he? As the dad, didn't he?
He did, yeah.
He's actually quite good in that. And he's actually all right in this. Tommy Cannon's dreadful. He's dreadful, but Bobby Ball's comedy delivery is actually not too bad.
He was a good comedian, in all fairness, if you like the act.
But this only lasted 2 episodes before it was replaced by Plaza Patrol.
Oh, okay. It wasn't going anywhere then.
No, but it raised a chuckle from me, so there we go. 25th September is the Dreamstone.
Oh.
Precious Dreamstone. I'd never heard of it. It's dead weird.
No.
Animated kids TV about 2 realms, the land of dreams and the land of nightmares.
Okay.
Whatever.
Dreams are nightmares, but okay, nightmares are dreams. They're one and the same thing, aren't they? Just a darker version of the same thing. But
yeah,
it sounds a bit naff.
Yeah, if September wasn't enough for The Simpsons to make its debut, then we also got on the 26th September Star Trek: The Next Generation over here.
We have, yeah. It's a good show, Star Trek: Next Generation. You either like Star Trek or you don't. At the time, people were kind of ready for it because obviously it was not Kirk and everybody else, and it was refreshing. It was a bit refreshing to have a new crew and a new Enterprise, and their visuals were upped, and the production of the show had been. I mean, I really liked the original Star Trek series a lot, and I have time for Star Trek: Next Generation. Some of the episodes are stupid, and they really are. But there are some really good episodes in amongst those, as you can say with a lot of shows that run for as long as. This was back when they did a lot of episodes, wasn't it? So I think 22 episodes a season, or something
22,
ridiculous
24,
like that.
Yeah, for every year. Yeah, they churned them out.
Well, prior to this being, because these are the early episodes on TV, by now in the realms of the world, they were quite ahead of themselves. So they were releasing these on sell-through video with, I think, 2 episodes on a tape, maybe 3.
Yeah,
so people were buying them ahead of time, and it seems crazy that the people would do that and spending quite a bit of money on them. But anyway, it is a good series. Captain Picard, of course, and they've never really gone away. There's a Picard series on now, and the last season of that had all the old crew back in it.
It did, yeah. That's the thing at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's like I said, you either go with Star Trek and the whole ethos of the Federation and stuff, and there's some amazing adventures that they have in that show. If some of the silly episodes with the holodeck and things like that to flesh out the 22 episodes a season, some of those they could lose for me. Yeah. But in amongst that, of course, it's given us things like the Borg. It's given us some really amazing things. In fact, there's some really brutal character deaths in there that you never expect. Tasha Yar, when she gets killed by that sort of swampy creature thing. There's some good stuff that happens in it all the way through. And then there's some really, really good episodes later on. Really good because people, unlike, at the end of every episode of the original Star Trek where everyone's kind of looking at each other and, okay, let's warp speed to over there, that kind of thing. There's repercussions for the things that happen in Next Generation. So there's some episodes where obviously Picard gets kidnapped by the Borg and changed into a Borg at one point, and then that kind of lives with him right the way through the episodes into the films and now into the new series. There's just some good resonance with some of the things that happen in it and some good characters along the way. So I like it. I don't know how long it was actually on BBC 4 on BBC 4 as in the length of time, not the channel.
Yeah.
But even so, I remember watching them quite, because the first season of that is a little bit stilted. The first episode's a bit dull as well, but it quickly gets quite good. And there's some really good early episodes. There's one in particular that never really resolves, where this signal is emitted from this creature into sort of deep space somewhere. And it's like, at the end of the episode is, oh my God, it got the signal out. I mean, it's never repeated, never go back to that. So there's some quite interesting things about things like that in it. So yeah.
Yeah, right. And Star Trek was always, I mean, I wasn't massively into it at the time, sort of thing. I've kind of come around to it a bit, more as I've got older, because it's usually, Star Trek is more, about a sort of a quandary, an ethical quandary, isn't it? Usually there's something, it's usually the backstory of it. I mean, I caught an episode of Voyager last night, and I was just flicking through the channels, and basically what the quandary for the week basically was this. I think it was Belarus, but what about the woman in it? I can't remember. But she'd been infected with something, and she was like, this creature had looped onto her, and then there was this Cardassian hologram, medical hologram, and the only way they could cure her, he knew how to cure her, but basically all his knowledge, his hologram's knowledge, was based on this doctor, this Cardassian doctor. This Cardassian doctor was essentially a war criminal who had killed thousands of Batarians, I think, and like it's just as lab rats, just to sort of gain the knowledge of how to sort of cure these things. So the ethical quandary there was, do they utilize that knowledge that was based on, the mass murder of thousands of people to save the crew member, or do they not? And that was because one of the crew members was a Batarian. I think it's a Batarian. I can't remember the exact race. And they were going like, look, you do this, and well, it says we're in the Delta Quadrant. It says I don't care. I'm not doing it anymore. And so they had this, do they save one? Do they go against it? It was quite, so it's those kind of things which are, because the discussion between the two doctors, the doctor on the Voyager and the new one, they were going like, well, what's the difference between we experiment on them, you experiment on animals? What's the difference? Which is very resonant at the time, sort of thing with animal, testing and all that sort of stuff.
Totally.
So that's the kind of thing that Star Trek did quite well. It kind of sort of talked about those issues and made them into shows. And I think I noticed that more in Next Generation. I know that the old Star Trek did some of that, but I think it was more resonant with being a 20-year-old.
You're exactly right. And it's more of it is based on that kind of drama as well. It's not just good guys versus bad guys. You've got these shades of grey in there, and political dramas and like you say, ethical things. And there's a whole series of things in between. So you're right, and it's quite good for that. It does explore some of those things quite well, and especially in, like you say, in things like Voyager and Deep Space Nine, particularly Deep Shit Nine, as my dad used to call it, but Deep Space Nine as well. They do get very near-political and very dark in places, especially when you've got war criminals and the Cardassians and stuff like that. Again,
a lot of it's do the ends justify the means and stuff like that. There's
absolutely,
all that kind of,
and should we intervene? There's a lot of that in Star Trek Next Gen. They go to planets and they might not be at the right stage of development, but if they interfere with things which is against the Federation rules, they could cause all sorts of troubles. And and that is good for that. It is, and there's some exciting episodes in it as well, some boring ones as well. But I'd say to someone, if you're going to go and watch a Next Generation couple of episodes, go and watch probably Time's Arrow, which is an exceptionally good double episode. It was an end of a season. I can't remember which season it was, but it's a really good double episode where they find Data's, who's the android on the ship, they find Data's head buried in the sand in a place where they've gone, and they've got to try and figure out how and why it's there. Yeah. And it's a really clever episode, Time's Arrow. So good stuff.
Yeah, good stuff. 26th September, How To. Dun, 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 dun,
that was How, wasn't it? How.
I think they used the same theme tune, didn't they?
No, it was How
did they
To.
not?
How To.
How was that How theme tune was great.
Same people, wasn't it? What's his name?
Fred Dinage, was it?
Yeah, he was back in it.
Gaz Top in it.
I think it was Gaz Top, and Carol Vorderman, I think, was in it.
Could very well have been, yeah, at this point. 27th September, Rabsy Nesbitt.
Never got into it.
No, it's a spin-off from Naked Video on it. I was never a massive fan of it, I can't say.
A mate of mine thought it was hilarious. I'd be working at that warehouse he used to work at many moons ago, and he'd come in after the date was on a be like, sort of pinned me to a wall almost, and it was hilarious. And do you watch Rab? Oh, Rab was hilarious. I'm sort of thinking, I really hate you. I really don't like you at all. So, that was awkward.
Yeah, I can imagine. Finally, 28th September, Have I Got News for You started. Good Lord.
Wow.
That's still going.
A lot of time ago. It is, yeah.
Epic Series 65 they're up to now.
My God, that's absolutely bonkers. I mean, it's a good show.
Well, it's an evergreen, ever-living panel show, isn't it? Because it's based on the news of the week.
Yeah.
There's always news. There's always jokes to be made about politicians, about stuff going on. But it'll never end until either the death of either Paul Merton or Ian Hislop.
They'll probably carry on after that. No, it won't be any good, but they'll probably carry on.
Yeah, maybe. If you didn't like watching any September, we had Memphis Belle.
It's all right. It's filmed around here, wasn't it?
Yeah, a local connection with this. I put the making of there. It was filmed at Binbrook, wasn't it? Which is the abandoned airstrip around here, RAF base.
Well, it was an RAF base, wasn't it? Then it just
was it actually a working one back then? I can't remember.
Yeah, well, it was up till I think the 90s, and then it was. I don't think it is now, but I think it was then because that's where the Lightnings used to be.
Yes, it was. Yeah. We used to go there to watch them. My brother used to go
crazy.
Out there. But it's the bombing runs in it over. It's Memphis Belle is one of the bombing. It's the B-52 bombers, I think, going over to bomb Germany. So it's a war film. It's pretty good. Eric Stoltz.
If you look carefully, there's people we knew in it, weren't there? Because there were half the Goths of Grimsby were in it.
Yeah, so they were. They all went out there and got in part of extras, especially in the mess hall scene where they're all eating. They just filled it with people from Grimsby.
If you look very carefully, you can see loads of them. He's like, there's Kingsley one. He was in there, and
Malcolm
Malley was in there.
Yeah. If you didn't fancy that, you could have seen Stella.
Never.
No. Bette Midler and John Goodman. I saw the trailer for this. It's John Goodman. It's just like he's come off the set of Roseanne.
Yeah, and it's not in a good way.
No, not in a good way. You didn't fancy that? You could have had Why Me?
No, I don't. I want to watch that.
Christoph Lambert and Christopher Lloyd. Seems you had to have the initial CL to star in this film.
You did, yeah. That's the only people that were allowed. It took them ages to get it made.
Jewel thief steals a sacred ruby. Sacred ruby, which sets off a chase by the police, the Turkish government, nutty American terrorists, and the CIA.
It sounds stupid.
It does sound stupid. 14th of September, there was Crazy People. Dudley Moore in an asylum. Loads of comedies about people in asylums and mental institutions.
Yeah. People are going loopy and mad and seeking psychiatric support of some description. And
there's loads of those. There's that Batman, Michael Keaton one recently as well. There's been a few.
Yeah,
of these
there's been a few. There has been a bit of a trend.
Yeah, you didn't fancy that? You could have seen Paper Mask.
I remember seeing that in the video shop. I don't remember why.
Paul McGann and Amanda Donohoe. Paul McGann impersonates a recently deceased doctor and goes to work in an ER, and she helps him cover up.
Okay.
I'm not quite sure what happens in it. I don't think I've seen it.
Right. Amanda Donohoe, you can be sure certain things happen.
21st of September, there's another 48 Hours.
I hate that film. It's really rubbish.
It is not great. So basically, it's for some reason. If you don't remember the first one, Nick Nolte is the cop and Eddie Murphy is the criminal. They have to team up to bring down a bad guy. And for reasons, they have to team up again to bring down another bad guy, the Iceman.
Oh, absolutely ridiculous.
I mean, it's another trip to the well that stretches the idea of the first one to breaking point, basically. It's just...
Yeah, completely.
Yeah, you can understand it. In the first one, it's, a one-off coincidence thing happened. It's, it's that Die Hard 2 thing. Why does this happen to the same guy again? It's like...
Yeah. Well, it was... They hit a bit of a formula, they thought, didn't they? Eddie Murphy was very bankable at this point, and
I guess
it's kind of like a non-buddy movie, wasn't it? Like so they love to hate each other.
It's the odd couple, it's Tango and Cash. We've seen loads of these.
But there's loads of them, and this kind of because 48 Hours was kind of at the cusp of them. This is just kind of one of the dragging it out ones, like you say. There's nothing even funny in it. And not that it's a comedy or anything particularly, but even the interplay between them is tired and lame, and it's just such a dreary film. And Eddie Murphy is clearly not having any good fun in there. So.
No. If you didn't fancy that, you could have seen Lionheart, otherwise known as, and this is what I know it as, which was AWOL.
Yeah, I remember it as AWOL.
Yes, this is the Jean-Claude Van Damme vehicle. An ex-French soldier begins participating in underground street fights in order to make money for his brother's family.
This is the premise of every Jean-Claude Van Damme movie.
Yeah. Why can he fight people? Underground fights, overground fights, wombling free fights. Who knows? Just make him fight.
Who knew there was such a culture of underground fighting in the 90s? Everywhere, every country, they seem to find themselves. They walk down the street, you hear a load of shouting and carrying on, and there's loads of people just gambling randomly. Then you're not quite sure how or what. How do they even know they've won? And then there'll be two people in a pit fighting it out, and then he'll come along and do his fancy stuff.
He'll do us jump splits somewhere in it. Is that image from the film?
Too. It's from a film. I don't know if it's from the film.
Jean-Claude Van Damme in the splits. He's a flexible guy. I'll give him that.
Do you know what? The reason I put that picture there is because it reminded me. I once was digging through the loft upstairs. I didn't find Jean-Claude Van Damme in my loft. That would be well weird. So I'll just caveat it right now with that. But I was just digging through a box, and then I opened this box, and there was my old Action Man toy, and he was in exactly that pose in the box. Exactly that.
The Jean-Claude Van Damme splits.
Yeah. He was like, hey! But all he had on was he had his blue underpants, obviously, because they all wore them. He just had a pair of boots on. That was it. A pair of boots, underpants, doing the splits. I was like, yes, Action Man. He did it first.
He's living his best life
exactly.
Up in your loft.
He was. I disturbed all that. Yeah,
absolutely. So. Just underneath, you found Cindy looking up with a smile on her face.
Well, he did marry a Cindy back in the day. I have to be honest.
There you go.
He married my neighbour's Cindy doll. They lived in the house together for a while. Told you before the very famous incident when I pulled speaking Action Man. I pulled the cord when they were in bed together, and he went, "Give me some cover." True story. True story, that is. Very
good. If you didn't fancy that, you could have seen The First Power.
Lou Diamond Phillips
thriller about an unkillable demonic serial killer. It said something to do with pentagrams. Looking at all the murders happen in pentagram points. He draws it on a map. It's like, look where all the killings happened. He's drawn a pentagram. It's like, I'm like,
he could have drawn any shape, couldn't he? He could have drawn any shape.
Yeah.
Just drawn a big wiggly yes. Look, it's a Snakes and Ladders game.
Could have drawn the Snakes and Ladders killer. Not quite as demonic. I killed a pentagram. Oh, pentagram! I thought you were a Snakes and Ladders killer.
So we'll be looking at all the building sites. Well, aren't we stupid?
I've been sliding down so many chutes. Been great fun.
6 people have died while you've done that. Oh, well, that will happen.
That will happen. I just thought I'd gone back to the start.
Do you know, I am daft, aren't I, me? Get out.
Oh, Lou. If you didn't fancy that, you could have seen The Last of the Finest, otherwise known as Blue Heat, which again is what I knew it as over here.
Yeah.
I recognise this from video stores. Brian Dennehy, Joe Pantoliano, and Jeff Fahey.
Angry Fahey. He's always quite... He's Lawnmower Man Fahey. I remember him. I only remember him for the Lawnmower Man.
Yeah. 4 LA cops are fighting the war on drugs. Corrupt superiors manage to break up their team when one of them gets killed. The 3 quit LAPD and continue investigating.
Yeah.
You know what that's going to be like.
Yeah. Loads of nighttime scenes with sirens and red flashy blue lights outside people's houses and
people shouting in people's faces.
Yeah, he did do that a lot, actually.
He did a lot. 28th September, not the only time he's going to get mentioned this episode. We looked at there's Nightbreed.
There is.
Yeah. So this is the horror film based on the Clive Barker book. A confusing mess of a film, really, if I remember correctly.
Oh, it's awful.
I just remember the main guy in this, and David Cronenberg had massive foreheads. That's my main memory of this film. Huge foreheads going on in this film. I was like, God, the forehead quote is off the chart.
It was a Clive Barker directed, wasn't it, as well?
Yes, So it's a mythical place called Midian where the monsters live, but there's a serial killer who's going around killing people and he's killing monsters. I don't know.
Am I right thinking, is it David Cronenberg that plays the murderer in that?
Yeah, he's the psychiatrist.
Yeah. I think I might just giving the game away.
Oh, who cares?
And we have a connection to this film. We have an actual connection.
We do have a connection.
As a connection. So at Brown Sauce's 21st birthday party, which was in a pub called the Schnapps Barge in Grimsby, where you could buy very cheap schnapps and very, very strong German beers.
And a yard of ale.
Which we did on that night. And a yard of, I was getting to this. So at this particular party, Brown Sauce decided to try and drink a yard of ale. Nothing wrong with that. So she tried a yard of Budweiser.
Fizzy.
So this day, right, a few things happened at that party which were hilarious. One is him doing that because it was brilliant because he tipped it up and it just gushed about a gallon of beer into his face. And he just remember like washed his face in Budweiser and he put it down. And then he was like, he looked up and he went, yeah. And then he tipped it back again and it just covered him in beer again. Oh, it was brilliant. And then when he dropped it down, because obviously a yard of ale's like the big bubble at the bottom, isn't there? Like a big thing. He did, as he went down, he just dropped it quite fast and it smashed a glass of schnapps out of my hand completely. Just shattered into oblivion, just blew that to pieces, which then prompted me to burst out laughing. And then the guy from Nightbreed had showed up at the party. This is why I mentioned all of this.
Yeah.
So I can't remember his. I don't know if we should say his name, but the guy who was actually in it, he was a character in that, and he played a part in the film. And he was a friend of somebody who we knew, and he turned up at the party with this person as an uninvited guest, essentially. And he seemed all right. And then there was a big. I don't know what happened because I was very, very, very drunk at this point. Yeah. All I can tell you is that there was a massive dust up between Brown Sauce and this guy, like a major one. And then it ended up with us running through the streets of Grimsby shouting the word dribbly, I think, and just crazy stuff happened. But yeah, just remember, it's the guy from Nightbreed who was in Nightbreed showed up at Gary's party and Gary ended up shouting in his face and calling him a series of really rude names. Words. Yeah, very unpleasant names. Yeah, very unpleasant indeed.
That's what a yard of ale will do to you.
Well, a yard of Budweiser would do that to anyone. Yeah. So, I don't know how much of that he drank on and how much he wore, really.
He liked it.
It was really. I have very fond memories of that night and that particular thing.
Yeah,
so.
I remember that. If you didn't fancy Nightbreed, and you probably shouldn't, you could have gone and seen the much better Presumed Innocent.
Yeah, I remember that being all right.
Yeah, I really like this film. Harrison Ford's got a severe haircut, but it's an adaptation of Scott Turo's book, which is a really good legal procedural murder mystery. It's got a really good ending that when the reveal is done, it's like almost a bait and switch twice. It's really, really nicely done. But again, another Brian Dennehy film, got Raul Julia in it, got Scatchy, Bonnie Bedelia. It's a really good film, which I still like to watch this from time to time today.
Yeah, don't blame you.
Good stuff. Finally, if you didn't want to watch any of those, there was Mo Better Blues. Not to be confused with the Simpsons Mo Better Booze. But this is a Spike Lee joint. Never seen it. Have you seen it?
I don't remember it. No, I don't remember seeing it. I didn't watch a lot of Spike Lee movies, actually. I probably should remedy that at some point, but I haven't seen this one. So
and there we go. That was it. Probably the highlight there. Well, it's got to be The Simpsons. Simpsons and Star Trek probably starting on British TV.
Yeah, pretty good shows to begin with.
Yeah, absolutely. There we go. So we're going to go away, take a quick break. Hope you enjoyed that lot. We're going to come back. We've still got 3 games, a crapvert, charts, what's coming up next week. So please do stay with us. And we're back. 3 games. Let's get into them. First up, this is Time Scanner. Time Scanner. This is £2.99. And Graham, it got a whopping 28%.
Wow.
I know. Be afraid. This is another entry this is from deep within the vaults of the Arcade Obscura. This is Time Scanner. This is another one. This is a digital pinball game. This was originally by Sega, released in 1987. This is so obscure, although it is mentioned in the Arcade Imperfect book, but it doesn't have a wiki page. So it doesn't even have a wiki page. This is how obscure this is. Who knows? I don't know what Games Master really rated this, in its monthly, cabinet for the month. Who knows? Maybe in high. I reckon it could have probably. Actually, the arcade game's not bad, but this version, anyway. But this conversion originally surfaced in 1989, released by Activision. Released by Activision and developed by a company called Spidersoft. The only game I could find that they've made. Good. So interesting that. Only game this is. So this was a full price one a year before. Released across all formats. And it was originally released for the Amiga, Atari ST, Amstrad, C64 Spectrum, and the MSX. And we'll come to why in that in a bit. This version here, obviously, the £2.99 budget re-release. This is on the Hit Squad label. So this is Ocean have picked this up and decided that this is worth a re-release for £3. So the arcade version of this was quite interesting because it's a pinball game, but it had 4 tables built in. What you had to do is you had to work your way through them. You could switch between the first 3. You had to complete the first 3 tables, and you went between one. There's these little time portal tunnels at the top, and when you got the ball up in them, it flicked to the next table. So you're going through these different tables. Absolutely. So because that kind of idea, that takes it beyond what a physical pinball table can do. Because a physical pinball table is a physical thing. It's one table. Because this is digital, you could switch tables on the fly, and that's quite a clever idea. That's quite an interesting idea, the way it's done that. And you could flip between the first table, you get up in the time, you go to the second one, complete bits on there, by keeping it above, and then go to the third one, come back to the second. That's quite interesting. Yeah, that's quite cool. So that's quite nice. So the idea here is you've been trapped in some kind of time warp. There's a bit of a story, and you must complete the tables in order to escape. And yes, there's a problem here. Just remember that in order part. Okay, I'll come to that a bit later. So the game's 4 tables, set 4 different zones. You've got a volcano stage is the first one. This is followed by the ruin stage, then the Saqqara stage. I don't know what that means. And finally, there's the final special stage. This special stage is not explained in the instructions. And I'm just going to say I didn't play this long enough to find out what it is, and I couldn't even find a full playthrough on YouTube to tell me what it is either. It's just a special stage. It could be aliens. I don't know. It doesn't really matter, though, because I'm just going to set it out now. This is just dreadful on every level, this conversion. It's dreadful.
You ain't wrong.
So where to start? Okay, so in the arcade, like I said, in the arcade, the version, and the Amiga, and the ST versions, you flick between the first 3 levels through the time tunnels at the top of the table. That is the core conceit of this game. It is the thing that makes this game what it is. Not so in the 8-bit versions, because for some reason, each table is a separate load. So that begets them all being in memory at once. Separate load means you've got to complete each table in order to progress to the next one. This rips the one interesting thing about the arcade game out of it. Just pulls it out. It's like, well, what is it then? It's just okay. So it's just four tables. Well, okay, but you have to complete the first one to get to the second one. You can complete the second to the third, and so on and so forth. Not flipping back between them. No, the whole conceit of the arcade game has been torn away, which is the first big problem here that we have with this game. The other big problem is that this is the worst version of the 8-bits, I thought, because it's been ported directly over from the Spectrum.
Yep.
So this is essentially Z80 code running again on the C64. This has not been optimized in any way, shape, or form for the C64, and it's really not good. The Amstrad and the Spectrum versions run faster. The MSX version does run faster. It has a terrible bit where you have to scroll the screens down, but generally the 3 Z80 code variants run a lot better than this one. And it just, I don't know. This is just awful. So when the game starts, it has to load in the first table. The first couple of versions I had of this wouldn't load in the first table, and I had to search around for a version that worked. I finally found one. So it's got music here by Adam Gilmour that starts playing. Now, normally Adam Gilmour does a good job. And at first his tune is okay, because I think it's a version of the arcade game's tune, but it's such a short loop. It'll destroy your brain in about 2 minutes. The music in this is just dreadful, because it's so repetitive so quickly that it will just, break your head and be like, oh, shut up, this bloody tune. So the playing screen itself, and this is how it works. So the start of the game has the pinball part on the left and some UI on the right. Okay, so that's what this is. It's split left and right. So on the right, you've got the logo, so it says Time Scanner. You've got the 4 other tables for some reason. I don't know why you need this here. You've got the number of balls left, so basically how many balls left you got to play pinball with, the bonus at present for where you're playing it, and it's got your score. That's it. It's got horrible 2-color Spectrum style visuals for some reason. The main game is all blue, I think, if I remember rightly. It's all red and neither black. It's all blue and black, or red and black, or green and black, or yellow and black. And it's just horrible. It just looks ugly, really ugly. Everything. I don't get it. Controls are keyboard only. I mean, I get it because you can press 2 of them at once, but you can't do left and right. Okay, fair enough. So this is O and W to use the flippers, and Q, P, and space to tilt the table if you wish to do that. So when the game starts, the ball starts as it does in the shoot. Basically, the plunger is going up. It's got goes down and then pings up, and then goes down and pings up, and you basically got to press one of the flippers, O or W, when it's down to push the ball into the table. Okay, and that's what you do. And it's here at this point that you thought it looked terrible, but you think, well, okay, it doesn't look great, but if the ball moves all right and the physics are okay and it flips around, it's still pinball, so it can still have a good game. That doesn't happen. That just doesn't happen. The ball is slow, jerky. This game runs at a sub 10 frames per second. It's just dreadful. I mean, I don't know why it's so slow. I don't get it. Your flippers are slow to react. So this makes this game almost borderline unplayable because everything is so jerky and slowy. The ball bounces and moves, and when things, but it's like staccato because it's running at such a low frame rate. So it's just awful. You try and basically you play in the game. So the other trick of the arcade game is that the tables are split into two. So you have a top half and a bottom half. So if the ball goes past your flippers in the top half of the game, when it sort of goes down to the bottom, and what happens is the screen sort of scrolls downwards. It flicks downwards basically to the bottom half of the screen where the volcano is, and you've got to do stuff down there. So you're kind of playing across two different parts of the table in the arcade, and on this it's the same. The problem is that the scrolling as it moves down to reveal the lower part of the game is really jerky. It's not as bad as the MSX version, which is awful, but this is still slow. There's no reason why this is moving so slow. It's because they've split the screen vertically, which I don't understand why they've done that. I just don't get it. They just make it full screen. What have you done this for? It's just, I don't get it. So at the bottom in the first one, there's the words volcano, and you're trying to hit targets and stuff, and you're trying to light up all the words of volcano. Then if you do that, you get the ball back to the top half. They've still got the time tunnel tubes in the top left and right, but should you get into those without completing the table, it just pings it back out. So you don't go into the next table like you do in the Amiga ST arcade version, it just pings it back out, which is rubbish. But if you do manage to spell volcano, you'll get it in there, it'll load the next level. You won't want to. You won't. This is rubbish. It's horrible to play. It's so ugly to look at. It's dreadful to listen to. There's not one good thing about this, and I don't understand why. Because the arcade version, they could have done a decent version of this. The C64 can scroll screens quite well. I played the arcade version of this, and it's fast, it's fun, it's full of the Sega vibrance of 1987. Switching between the tables is a neat mechanic, as I said, lifts this above what can be done with a fixed solid pinball table. It was a fun experience in the arcade version on MAME. I was like, oh, this is all right, it's a nice game to discover. Not so with the C64 version, where I just felt like, I've been insulted. It's an insult list. The speed is an insult. The response is dreadful. The thing that I don't get here, though, this was considered fit for re-release. This was considered fit for release at full price a year ago. 1989, this is released at full price. I mean, that's a joke in and of itself. Okay, but they've released it, whatever sort of thing. But the bigger insult here is that who would think that this should be released again as a budget title? Why would you go, oh yeah, let's put it out again. Let's scam some more people because this is shit. Utter shit. How could anyone think this was fit for release? The ball moves faster on all the other machines because of course it would, because it's running their code. It's running Z80 code, obviously, clearly that's what it's doing. The C64 version is just, it's been ported over with no thought or sort of going, actually, let's play to the C64 strengths here. And let's make it so. This kind of port is just rubbish. It's up there with Karnov and how not to port a game to the machine. And it's not like we haven't seen decent pinball games on the C64. There was that Slam Ball, which we played ages ago, which came out in 1984, 85. And that was released. And that was full screen. That was a scrolling pinball table, wasn't it? Up and down. Sound familiar? Where you're moving around, and that moved fast, and it was pretty decent, and it was all right. And it's 5 years ago. There was even Pinball Construction Kit, released alongside like Racing Destruction Kit and the other ones. So these released some 5 years ago. So I don't get it. I don't get what has happened here, apart from another example of just whatever, just make this and port it over, and who gives a shit? I don't get it. Shockingly bad. Shockingly bad. There's nothing more to say because it's crap. It's awful. One of the worst games I've played in a long while. Just because it's a budget re-release, which is a double. It's a double turd. This has been turded already, and then it's like been. Someone's picked it up and then thought that turd was fit to be re-released. Awful thing. Tell me you didn't enjoy this.
No, I didn't. I thought it was absolutely shocking. Like really bad. Like bad. There was no redeeming qualities to this. I didn't like the way it was jerky and slow. Everything that the arcade was and everything that the Amiga versions were, this was not, wasn't it? And it was clearly based off of the excuse me, it's clearly based off of the other crappier versions as well. So there's no excuse for having that jerky scrolling type thing on a C64.
No.
We've said it a million times. The one thing that you can scroll really easily is up and down and left and right on a C64 to that extent. I mean, games at that point were scrolling entire backgrounds left and right and stuff like that. So this isn't out of the realms of possibility. Add to that the weird slowness of the ball and it was clearly a straight port from the Amstrad or the MSX or the Spectrum, because they did that as well. So I don't get why you would do it, but it was just utterly rubbish. A time scammer. For the time that I played it, I didn't enjoy anything about it. It was just a really naff pinball game. And I set my standards pretty high for pinball games. I've played, Pinball Dreams and things like that came up later on the Amiga, and they just that was it. No, but there's no reason why you couldn't do a one sprite game bouncing off things on a C64. It's not out the realms of possibility to do it. No, we've seen games that could do that easily with the physics.
Yep.
So I don't think there's really an excuse for it. It's just badly put together, badly made, and it was obviously just ported direct. And as Carlton said, they've just taken the draw routines from one system and just converted it to the other. They'll probably not even use the sprite or use any of the hardware. They're literally just pushing things through the screen memory, just pushing up and down through screen memory, and there's no real attempt to try and scroll it. Why would you bother? Why bother doing that? So naff, rubbish. Didn't like it. Nope, terrible.
Nope.
28% is way too high. I'd have given it less than 10. I'd have given it less than 10 for that.
Yeah, I would as well. It's dreadful, rubbish.
Yep.
There we go. Let's move on to our next one, which I'm sure will be equally as good.
Yeah.
And Graham, it's over to you to tell us all about what it's like being a killing machine.
Well, that ain't going to take long. So this was a £2.99 classic from our friends at Atlantis Software.
Oh,
we should give it a little bit of the game away, wouldn't it? Where Atlantis was drowned in the ocean. And this is probably where this game should have been thrown. It got 36% in the pages of Zap. So, okay, something's not right. It's simply copyright Coin Age. And the music is also by Coin Age. Or Coinage. Yeah, Coinage. So nobody's claiming it. I couldn't find any names for this. So nobody's claiming it. Nobody would want to. Although the Amiga version of this has got graphics and sound by Soul Cross, which is interesting.
Interesting.
So, and the graphics, the 16-bit version is not comparable to this. That's actually got quite good graphics, and but okay, what are we talking about anyway? So let me tell you the story first of Killing Machine, because I think you need to know, and it's only short. After a harrowing battle in deep space, you decide to abandon your crippled ship. Never a good idea to do that in deep space.
No, that's a bad idea.
It is. Taking the emergency landing craft, you head for the nearest biospherically engineered planet. Biospherically. Round to you and me.
Yeah, like most planets.
What shape is that planet over there, Adrian? What do you see? Is it square? Is it biospherically challenged? What is it? Round? I guess a sphere, I don't know. Gliding down to the surface, the ancient stone dwellings of the long-dead planet formers come into view. Below them would be the now extinct Great Brain, which nurtured... Not Great Britain, Great Brain.
Great Brain.
Which nurtured and directed the planet as if it were its own body.
What?
Okay, just... Without warning, wave upon wave of attackers descend bent on your destruction. The brain is not dead. It's not. Pulsating below the surface, it sees you as an attacking virus, presumably with its eyes.
Presumably.
Anyway, attack or die. Destroy the brain. You must become the ultimate killing machine as you fight for your very existence. That's the story.
Okay. All right. Sounds good.
The game then. Fight your way through each of the 3 levels in your attempt to reach the Great Brain. Precious brain. Each of the first 2 levels is blocked by a brain guardian, which was what was blocking the people who made this game. They all had brain guardians on, let me tell you. And at the end of the 3rd level is the Great Brain itself. Massive firepower is needed to kill each of the guardians. The level 1 guardian needs repeated shots to the front of the head, right in the forehead, right in the old bean, directly in its brain. Whilst it is the claws of the level 2 guardians that need to be destroyed. Repeated shots into the brain will complete the mission. It's the only real showstopper, isn't it? It's the only real stopper.
The brain.
Headshot's the only real stopper. In all cases, the more highly powered weapon you have obtained, the less shots will be needed. Shooting the metal caterpillar releases a weapons capsule, which, when collected, increases your firepower. If an amoeba is shot, it will release a shield, which provides invincibility for a short time and strengthens the ship's shield. The crab releases a speed pod. My favourite sentence of the whole thing. Which temporarily gives you increased maneuverability. Extra lives are awarded at 10,000, 30,000, 50,000, 80,000, and every 100,000 points. Good luck.
Crabs are known for their maneuverability.
They are, actually. They're very fast. Don't mess with the crab.
In one direction.
I'm drawn to the first comment because I looked at a YouTube video of this on the different formats, and I'm drawn to the comment on the very first one of the C64 one I found, which said, and I quote, "Don't watch this video. Do something else, anything else. The game might just persuade you to literally kill your computer with a sledgehammer. Please don't do it. It's not worth it. If you come across the original tape or disc of this game, use your sledgehammer on that, please." Okay, so setting our bar pretty high here.
Good Lord.
What we are facing here is a shoot 'em up, Adrian. A shoot 'em up. Classic top-down shoot 'em up. Good old top-down shoot 'em ups. We've not had many of them, have we? Well, apart from all those ones that people making with the shoot 'em up construction kit.
Yeah.
Okay. Starts off with an okay title screen, I guess. I think it's meant to be. It's quite an interesting title screen, actually. It's the word Killing Machine in an okay sort of style with what I guess is meant to be blood dripping off it. Kind of looks a bit like ketchup, but okay, it is what it is. That's your loading screen, title screen. That's it. It's got some kind of music. Now, everyone raves about the music in the Lemon and everything. The music's great for this game. Great music. I'm not so sure about that.
No.
I'm not sure what they were listening to. I didn't think the music was that good, but you press fire and the game begins. And what you are presented with is a very boring looking top-down shooter, which wouldn't have looked out of place in about 1986, although they were doing them better in 1986. Every shooter, top-down shooter, is better that I've seen than this, really. It's a crap top-down shooter. Across the top of the screen, you've got the kind of UI, which is kind of in purplish splats. So it tells you that you've got your player one, how many lives you've got, your shield, and your high score. The classic things you need to know in a shooter. Mm-hmm. Everything else below that, which that's about 2 characters high, everything else below that is the game window, such as it is. You are then these brownest of brown spaceships. You look like a little brown turd arrow at the bottom. And you have to fly this turd arrow with your joystick, pressing fire to shoot in the classic shoot 'em up way. When the game starts, you are automatically scrolling across the background because it's an auto scroller. The scenery scrolls down. You fly your spaceship up. Things fly at you. You shoot at them. You get the general gist of how this game works. It's nothing more exciting than that. The backgrounds when it starts are kind of jungle inspired. And then there's some kind of crazy grass effect, which hurts your eyes. And then there's a crazy ocean effect, which also hurts your eyes. It's kind of a bit on the eye, this game.
Yeah.
It's hard to see your spaceship over the green because you're brown, which does kind of blend, and you're a kind of a middle 2-color medium res splat of a sprite at the bottom. And you are then harassed by a series of what can only be described as the most random enemies you'll ever come across in your life. This is the Homer's webpage when it attacks. So now one thing I can tell you is all the enemy waves in this are completely random for every time you play it. They're never the same twice.
No, they're not.
So that means there's no learnability in it, which is the only thing that you could say was probably a saving grace in this. It also means it is absolutely fucking impossible to do. Impossible. Possible to do. Possible.
Yep.
So you're shooting on this game and then you'll just be descended upon by a whole series of things. And within 3 seconds, you'll be dead because some of the enemies just fly towards you and hit you and you can't avoid them because they aim towards you. Some of them are in waves and they flap about all over the place. There's quite a lot of sprites going on the screen, moving around, not well, and they're not very good looking. There is what can only be described as a turd snake. I think it's the first turd snake we've seen, but a turd snake is what it is. Where it's just a series of brown balls. It's a meatball. It's a deadly meatball worm. You're attacked by a meatball worm. And it flies at you. If it gets in the way and hits you, you're dead. If it shoots little balls of things which you can't really see, you're dead. If you shoot at it, you can't fire at the right rate, which means you can't shoot things quick enough. Even if you shoot and get the extra speed up, which, by the way, I got one speed up and it flew me that fast, I flew into something and it killed me instantly. So it's just the speed up isn't like a little speed up. It like goes from slow to crazy.
Yeah.
So it was just mad. I was trying to shoot at things. I couldn't really shoot enough things to get many of the extra weapons. Even when I did, I didn't keep them long. I burned through my lives in what felt like 5 seconds, and that was it. Game over. Back to the title screen. Start again. And you're back to start again. You do start where you left off when you die, but you won't be that far into the game anyway, so it won't really matter.
It won't.
It's just, honestly, it's the most difficult game. It's impossible because every enemy wave is random. Not that I would, I like a little bit of mystery in these games. And we've said before, it's a bit rote, but there's a reason why they do it. Because if you make a game completely random, it is impossible because you need to learn a little bit of the pattern so you can know where the power-ups are, because that's kind of important in a game like this, especially when you need them to shoot the great brain. So I never got anywhere near the end of the brain levels. And I think in order to get anything out of this, you'd have to put numerous cheats which are available. I didn't do that. I didn't want to play any further than I had. Impossible enemy waves, horrible looking sprites, most of which look either meatballs or crap. There's one thing that did make me laugh. A giant wedge thing just flew on. It was really weird. It looked like a giant sort of shaded pyramid just flew on, and I was like, what the hell's that? So there is a little bit of that about this game. You do find yourself going, what the hell is that? There is a little bit of that, but not in the same way that we did with it. Yeah, it's saying the first game we played in the football game, the first football game, with the ball and foot. That had a, that's something interesting. This one doesn't know. This is just like, what the hell is that? And then you'll see, it's all of a sudden a flutter thing will fly on and kill you. Like, what happened? Where are my eyebrows? I don't get it. You can't learn it. You can't enjoy it. You can't play it. It's tiresome in a way that I can't explain. I thought this was bloody awful. There's an attempt at shading on some of the background graphics. Honestly, it will hurt your eyes after a while trying to look at this. It is utterly, utterly, utterly reprehensible garbage of the highest order. Now, the Amiga versions and other 16-bit versions, the graphics are it's completely upped. It's a different kettle of fish. I don't imagine the game's any better, but it is better looking and better sounding. But this one, it's just a visual nightmare and with no logic applied. If you take away the logic of enemy waves, you have no logic. Shoot-em-ups need logic. You can't just have random enemies. Even Space Invaders had logic. Just saying, this is crap. And even at budget price, this is a waste of money. How are they doing these? Why are they doing this? Pumping all these shoot-em-ups out. We had loads of them. Loads and loads and loads of them. Loads of them. Shoot-em-up construction kit, the base game that you get with that, the free one, is better than all of these.
Yeah.
Awful thing. No more. I'd rather play Heli Squad. Give me Heli Squad any day of the week. And your game shows you how good your game was, eh? Look at these crap. No, it's making your game look amazing, which sounds really bad, but I mean, your game is good. But it's certainly when you look at look at these bloody things. These are supposed to be professional games. You was just a guy using the shoot-up construction kit, learning it, and you produce something way better than any of these bloody things. It's crap. Did you like it?
No, I thought this was a game tidied up a bit with new UI and some music. I thought
game.
I thought it just looks like anyway. It's terrible. It's got a terrible, awful feel. There's no way. There's going to be a running theme for my commentary, which is there's no way to actually counter the onslaught of enemies coming at you. Nope. There's no way. Budget shooters have come a long way. We've seen a lot of good budget shooters. This is a real throwback to pre-Warhawk nonsense. The graphics are blocky. Yeah, and things move at a pace. There's no sense to that pace because you don't have the firepower to deal with it, which is not good. The music is annoying. They only ever hear the first few bars before you're dead, and then you hear them again, and then you hear them again. So get used to hearing those first few bars because that's all you're ever going to hear. And as you rightly said, the enemy design is also random. That's annoying because you can't plan, you can't learn, and you don't have the time to react because you don't have your ship doesn't have the speed or the firepower to cope with anything with the multiple enemies. Like that thing that comes down, like you said, the meatball snake. You can shoot about 3 of the parts of it. And there's 8 of them. It's like you have to have enough bullets to shoot it all, but you don't. Even if it's coming, rubbish. I didn't like this. 36%, no way, because it's barely playable. It's just stupid. I like my shoot 'em ups, but oh god, this is just badly designed nonsense.
Awful.
Yeah, rubbish. Not worth the £3. You'd be pissed off if you bought this for £3.
You bloody would.
You really would. There we go. That's Killing Machine. I agree with that comment on YouTube. Just smash it with a sledgehammer.
It didn't make me laugh that. Wow, that guy, whoever wrote that was frustrated.
Yeah, they really were, and I can understand it. Let's move along.
We've
still got one game left, and then we're done for September. And that game, well, it's a sequel. It's another football game in the traditional sense. This is Kick-Off 2.
Oh.
Kick-Off 2, £9.99, got 77%. So after the god-awful and strangely horizontal conversion of Kick-Off, we looked at not that long ago, only December 1989.
Wow.
What's this, 9 months later, we get the new one. Here comes Kick-Off 2. So, has to be asked, the questions have to be asked. Can this right the wrongs of its predecessor, or will we award this another red card and send it packing? Published by Anco and developed by Enigma Variations.
Get the shaku hatches out. Incantations.
It's got code by Finley Munro and graphics by.
Did you say Finley or Fiddley?
Finley Munro. I might have written his name wrong. I might have to check this up. Hang on a minute.
Fiddley Munro's a great name.
I don't know. Finley. It is Finley. Finley Munro. Finley Monroe. I thought I've written finally or finally, or he's correcting me to finally. Finley
Anything
Monroe.
wrong, Finley?
It's got graphics by David Bland. It's never a name you want for doing graphics.
No.
And music by Frederick Sagerfolk.
Okay.
That's a good name. The game starts. So I found a few versions of this, but I was going to talk about the version that I think was the full version. I don't know. It starts with a fairly decent loading screen. So it's got the front of the box, you know, that sort of footballer on his knees, going, like he just scored or whatever.
It is quite good, that.
It's quite a good loading screen. The guy kicking the ball, who I think might be Pele, because I think I don't know, it might be Eusebio. Because he's got a... I don't know what he's got.
Fail-safe, Bennett. It's Pele. It looks like a Pele.
It could be Eusebio, I'm not sure. Anyway, but it's that. It's a good one. And then, so when the game loads, the version we played, it's got a really sample-heavy tune on the title screen, which isn't mentioned in the review of Zapped. They just said, no music, really rudimentary sound effects. I'm like, oh, okay. Weird. But it's like, because really sample-heavy, it's like, kick off. Yeah, and all that kind of stuff. Like, okay, that's quite interesting. But I did see other versions of this. I tried other versions with stripped down menus and the like. So I had no idea. Anyway, I'm going to review what is here, what I played. So the intro itself is actually quite nice. So when it loads up, it's got a good logo. So it's got like the title screen is quite well done. It's like all your menus and options and logos that you go through. They're all like on a sort of scoreboard, which is like in a stadium with sort of brick wall at the bottom. I think it's a brick wall. There's a stadium at the background, some clouds and trees and stuff. It's quite nicely done. It keeps it in situ. It keeps that menu like relevant to the actual game itself. I think it's quite good. The menu selection is easy enough. You press fire because when it first loads up, it's got the kickoff logo, credits and stuff. You press fire and you get the menu selection. And here, have to sort of credit them. The menu selection is really easy. You've just got two fingers on either side pointing at the options, and as you move them down, they actually go in and out to the edge of the text, which is nice. So it's not just at the edge and just going down, they go into the text. I really like that. I think there's some nice stuff going on there, and it's really obvious what you're selecting. So you've got options here for a single game. You've got the league, the cup, an international friendly, and practice, and you've got options. Okay, so the usual sort of slew of sort of things you can play in a football game, from single game, leagues, cups, that sort of stuff. If you go into options, you can change the duration of each half. You can change the pitch from normal to wet to soggy to plastic, which is quite interesting, which all affect the speed and bounce and thing of the ball. You can also change the wind. You've got four. You can turn it off. You can have light wind, normal wind, or strong wind, which is, get some windies in for that. You can change the tactics and formation for each team. So 4-4-2, 5-4-1, whatever, blah, blah, blah. You can turn extra time on or off. You can select the skill team for team A and B. You can go top is international. You go all the way down to, I think, Division 4, I think. So you can flick between them. So that's, again, so you can... If you can handicap your teams, basically, if you're playing against somebody who's not very good and you're brilliant, you can play like Division 4 level. You can play Division 4. They could be international. Gives them a boost. That's quite good. You can also turn on the aftertouch for bending the ball when shooting. So that's nice. Or kind of just aiming it at different directions. When you press space, if you've got the aftertouch, you can make it go at a slight angle, which is good. So once you're happy with all those, you can choose any of the modes of play from the main menu. And each different mode is a separate load, so these all load in separately. The league option sets up a league of 8 international teams. You select which of the 8. So you select which of the 8 which of the 8 are being played by people. So you select that. You say they've got a C next to them on the left, and you press the fire button. It turns to a J. That means it's basically being played by joysticks, so a player. And so you can have up to 8 people playing this, or you can just have one. It's up to you. Then you start the league, and each team plays each other, and it plays out as a league. You can save it and stuff like that. Selecting the cup option, same kind of thing. Pitches the same 8 teams in a knockout competition. Again, you select who is played by real people, and so on and so forth. International friendly lets you pick to play against a computer opponent or another player. Choose any of the teams we've already seen from the league or the cups. If you do this, though, oddly, on completing the game, you get a different menu system for some reason, a really simple one, which was weird. I don't know where this one was at. I don't know why it didn't take you back to the title screen. Just kind of this sort of text-only, sort of yellow text on a black background, if I remember rightly, but it was a bit weird. If you choose practice, it allows you to practice the controls of the game. So, moving around, things like that. So after choosing what you want to do, let's get to the football, because that's really the meat of this game. It's not a management sim, it's a football game. So you get a toss of a coin, which you can pick. If you win it, you can pick whether to go up or down the screen. And so the game starts. And immediately, this is more reminiscent of Kickoff 2 on the Amiga. Okay. So this is, where the action is now a horizontal pitch. A vertical pitch with goals at the top and bottom. So it's bigger than the screen, so it scrolls to the left and the right, but it's basically goals at the top and bottom. Sensible soccer, Micro Soccer, it's that sort of rotation of the actual pitch, so it feels better immediately, and that's quite good. Players are small and tiny in comparison to the pitch. That pitch is massive in comparison to those people on it.
It is.
In the top left, there's a radar. This radar is pretty useless because it only shows your currently controlled player and not where anyone else is. So you've got no idea what the rest of your team is up to. So that seems a bit of a overlook. It's, you kind of need to know, if you've got the ball, can I pass it forward, or is the player off to the left? You just got to guess. You're booting it. Oh, okay, whatever. And at the bottom, we have a simple UI. It's got the current player on the ball in the bottom left. It's got the time in the middle in a really big bar. It was just a small time. There's loads of space. And then on the bottom right, it's got a couple of goals with the numbers, the score next to them, which is kind of weird as well. So start playing. Okay, we get going. And I'll say this for the game, it's fast and it does scroll smoothly in all directions. There's no problem with that. So this is actually, reminiscent of that Amiga version. Little players charging about, and it's okay. The players, they're well small, they're okay, animated at a decent pace. Everything runs, at a decent pace here. So at first glance, you're thinking, actually, this might be a decent C64 version of Kickoff 2. Okay, yeah. The issue comes actually when you actually try and play it or control it in any way. Because controlling the ball at any point is a nightmare, an absolute nightmare. It's like playing hockey. I don't know, because it feels more like a puck than a ball, but it's just all over the shop. It does that thing again, which Kickoff and Sensible Soccer they do on the Amiga as well, where you can try to turn with it, but the ball just carries on in its own way. And I said I hated that for Kickoff. I hate it for Kickoff 2. I've never liked that method of controlling. Here, it's just a nightmare, though, because it's just so frantic. It's just all over the place. So half the time, the ball is just careering around the pitch. It's just all over the shop. Tiny players are frantically charging about in the hope that it might go somewhere near them. You try and run at the ball, but it does that thing where it's scrolling, trying to keep up with the ball, so your diagonal suddenly doesn't really match up with the ball. The ball is going, and I found myself just overrunning or not getting near the ball or just missing it completely, and it's just all over. And the controls themselves are simple enough. 8-way running. Hit and fire seems more of a hit and hope, because the ball physics are all over the place. Sometimes it will move so fast the screen can't keep up with it. Other times it just rockets away. Sometimes it'll sort of bounce and then speed up because it's going at an angle, so it doesn't really know what it's kind of doing, and I don't know where that's sort of happening there. You can slide in on attacking players. I mean, that's all right. You might give away a foul, get a card, but half the time you'll just miss because it's too fast. The ball will go somewhere. Nothing about this feels like you're in control at any point. It is headless football. Throw-ins are rubbish because your player faces straight to the left or right, so you don't know actually where you're aiming. It doesn't actually turn. That Manchester United one, it aimed. You could see when you turn for a throw-in. This one, you just keep going. So, like, how far up the line am I aiming this, or am I throwing it at diagonal? Where am I going? Where is it? Goal kicks are weak. They barely go anywhere. They barely clear the area, and that's probably because the pitch is so massive that for a goalkeeper to actually clear the penalty area, they'd need to have a superhuman foot. Trying to put together any kind of move or strategy in this is impossible because you've no idea where your players are. You've no control over anything. It's just frantic and nonsensical. It's like playing. It's like watching kids, 7-year-olds play football, charging after the ball. It's just on a massive pitch. And so after this, I don't know, is the C64 really up to doing a decent version of Kickoff or Sensible Soccer? That kind of fast-flowing thingy football game and getting all the strategy and the speed and everything in? I don't know if it is. It may look like Kickoff 2 from afar. It may do. But the lack of any kind of control, there's just no feeling of playing football here. It's just headless ants chasing after a thing that has inertia that doesn't work. It's just not here. There's, we've still looked back to Emily Hughes and Micro Soccer. They still sit atop the pile of football games in the machine. We've had so many football games of late, obviously because it's on the back of the World Cup, and none of them have even come close to that. Man U game is way better than this, but even that don't come close to topping them. And this is just a mess. It got, like I said, 77%, which is just a big no.
No.
because you can't play it, and it's just frantic nonsense. So no, I didn't like this. I didn't enjoy this. I was disappointed in this. I saw the score and I was like, this could actually be all right. But upon playing it, and I like my football games, this just drove me insane with its inability to actually play a decent game of football. So didn't like it. What did you think?
Same, exactly the same. The home for these was never the C64. I mean, it's just an honest acceptance that no, they've tried, and the closest they've got was Microprose, which is obviously sensible. It's the closest they ever got to it. All these pretenders, and this is good. Kickoff 2 is quite good on the Amiga. I mean, it's a classic on the Amiga. It's really, it's between that and Sensible World of Soccer, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's the two kind of rulers, and Sensible gets the edge for me every time. But that said, on the Amiga, these are both good football games. You've got a lot of control, but it's got the speed of the movement and around everything. This just feels exactly the same problem that I had with the Manchester game. It's just loads of things, tiny sprites running around after a ball. You can't really see which one you are. You don't really have any control, and they all roided up like racehorses. I mean, you can't play against them. I could not get the ball off them. As soon as I got it, they had it off me instantly, and then it was charging down the field on it, and I couldn't. There's nothing I could do to stop them. Mm-hmm. It didn't feel like I was really anything other than just some kind of somebody sliding around in the background on this game while somebody just ran around with the ball. I had no fun with it. It wasn't like I was enjoying it. Now, I compare that to Kickoff 2 on the Amiga. There's loads of fun to be had in that. You feel once you get to grips without controls, you can have a good challenge, especially 2-player. This doesn't offer you that. Even with its little additions and its attempts to try and do a bit of a reboot in terms of how it looks for the C64, all it is a pale imitation of a much better game on another platform. This was not meant for the C64, sadly. This is just, this is an Amiga game, hands down an Amiga game, same as Sensible was, and they don't have a place on the C64. And yes, you could try and attempt it, but you're going to end up with this, which is a load of, exactly as you described, tiny ants chasing a dot on a barely visible series of tiny dots on green. It's not very much fun to do that, and it is just lots of things scuttling around at a pace that makes no sense to anybody with no fun to be had in it at all. I couldn't get the ball. What's the point playing a game when you're just chasing around after a ball and not getting it? No, even when you get the football, you can't keep hold of it because they get it off you within seconds and you're done. So it's no fun to be had in that. So I didn't enjoy it. And I just came to that conclusion at the end. Like I said at the start, I thought, do you know what? This isn't very good, but the Kickoff 2 is a good game. It's just not a very good version on this platform because it's just was never meant for that. So, know your limitations. It's just, it's home, it's not here. Sorry.
No, certainly not. And there you go. That's it. That's it for September. That's the games. What have we looked at this week? Well, Heatseeker is probably the best by a long way, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's the most interesting. Weird, it's the best of the lot, sort of thing. It's weird and unusual, and you may not get on with the control system, but it's at least worth playing. Yeah. I don't think I can say that for any others because Manchester United is boring. Time Scanner is awful. Killing Machine is awful, and Kickoff 2 is not very good either.
No.
So there we go. That's it. That's it for September.
Bit smelly.
Yeah, Time Machine and Heatseeker probably the best of the two that month. There we go.
Yeah.
We do have a crap vert, Graham.
Oh yes. Oh dear.
We saw this game. We saw the film that was released, but now we have the game. Now this is Nightbreed, or as it said on the advert, the Nightbreed.
Why is it the Nightbreed?
I don't know. That's the first thing that annoyed me because it's not, is it? It's Nightbreed.
Yeah.
It's why they put the.
I'm looking at typefaces where they've just stretched it and haven't done it properly, and it's actually making me really mad.
There's so I knew this would annoy you, sort of thing, because it says so. It says that the Nightbreed at the top. It's got that squeezed image of the main actor's face in it from the game, which is squeezed. Let's see what I mean by forehead, by the way.
Yes, stupid.
That's what I remember. But it's like we saw on that other one, that Mastertronic one the other week, with that squeezed image of that girl. That's done that similar sort of thing.
Yeah, because they haven't scaled the image properly.
No, they haven't.
So they haven't changed. They've just changed its shape, which of course distorts the image. So they've just distorted the image and distorted all the typefaces because they've done the same thing with them as well. So it says the action game, and then dotted about it says the Nightmare. Nightmare is stretched horribly. Has begun, and then there's loads more text and screenshots. In the bottom right, in green with 3 exclamation marks, says they're coming soon. Why? Who are?
The Nightbreed, I guess. I don't know. This is rubbish. It's like so much trying to be packed onto a page. It's like they just never stopped. Why is the mask in massive letters that just on that right there in
Why is that there? Yeah. Why is it? What does it even mean?
I don't know. Look at that. Look at the kerning on that text onto the left. The underground something of Midian, where the Nightbreed supernatural creatures. That Nightbreed and supernatural, where they've been stretched to fit across it.
It's just I can't cope with it. It's like why? Look, why? If you go, because obviously for some reason they've made the advert in 3 columns. I don't know what possesses them to do that. Why have you done that? Why? Why? It's completely unnecessary. No. I mean, you don't need to do that. They've got 4 screenshots there, which they could have run equal size across the bottom for a start. Yeah. Then they could have just had the image of the guy on the left if they need to have it in there at all, at its right appropriate scale, and then you could have the nightmare has begun to the right of that, and that text would have sat nicely next to it as a paragraph. I mean, it's not basic layout, isn't it? Yeah. So it doesn't need the action game kerning across the entire page. People who do that want slapping really hard. Really hard. Really, and especially because they've put an awful border around the picture. I can't cope with borders of 2 or more pixels like that. I can't cope with it. Especially when they've done it in light grey. Why light grey?
I knew as soon as I saw this, I went, oh, the typography of this is going to drive Graham mad.
Well, the daft thing is, right, if you've got like a background graphic, which they have there, obviously it's a still from the film blurred in the background, which is bad enough. At least blur it properly. But they haven't done that. So that means that the light grey type colour they've chosen doesn't show up properly on the light grey areas of the grey background, the grey and brown background. Change the colours.
Yes.
No. And then you've got this garish red that sort of bleeds out, but it's slightly red-orange. But because the typeface has been stretched, it's thinner and fatter in different places. It just says, on the top left, for example, it just says the word the. And then there's just a gap. So clearly they didn't really think, well, we can't stretch the all the way across because it would look stupid. So we'll just leave a gap there. Why? Here's an idea. Why not do that at all? Don't do it. Don't do any of it. Yeah. Just don't do that. It's absolutely shocking.
I mean, even if they'd have put the nightmare has begun under the action game across, as one just a second sort of tagline. You got the Nightbreed, the action game, the nightmare has begun. Then they could have pulled the picture down and made it actually the right ratio.
Yeah. It wouldn't take a lot to fix it. I mean, you get rid of the "they're coming soon" straight off the bat because it makes no sense, and it's in green. Now, just no, just put my foot down. No. Somebody should have said, firstly, it's in the wrong typeface. Firstly, someone should have said, why are we using that typeface? Doesn't match any of the other typefaces. No. Why is it green? Get off. Why have you put 3 exclamation marks on it? Why is there any on it at all? What does it even mean? Get rid of it. No, it's a shocking abomination. And obviously all the screens are from the Amiga version. This came free, I think. Yeah. I got this game free with my Amiga. I'm pretty sure I did. I never played it. It's crap.
I do. I think we played it at yours and it was rubbish. We didn't like it.
Oh, it is. The games that I got free with it were, on the whole, crap. I mean, with the exception of a couple of Psygnosis ones, I think. But no, bad logo, which is, I'm not even sure it's correct. Then the typeface nightmares begin. Then you've got the unreadable text. It's just the classic crapvert, isn't it? And then to top it all off, they badly scale an image of something out of the film, which has no context anyway. Because who is that? What does it mean? Why is it there? Who is it? Who is it?
Don't know. And they misname it.
And they misname it. And then it says, they have to put the action game. Like there'd be any other kind.
Well, there's the puzzle game, the point and click game.
Who would want to play the puzzle game of this? Or the adventure, the text adventure.
The racing game.
Utterly stupid. Yeah. And that guy who's getting that makeup in that out of the film, I'm guessing, he can't be happy with that face he's doing. That face he's doing.
Yeah. He's treading a Lego, hasn't he?
Yeah, it is. He has treaded a Lego. Yeah, bad stuff. Bad, absolutely crap. And he looks now like the image of the blue trousered workman. That's more like the guy out of what's it called? It's more Charles Bronson, isn't he? More in that. It looks a bit more Charlie Bronson in there. It's a bit of crap. Yeah. It's a crap vert for a reason. It's a good find. That awful. Yeah, Ocean. Awful. There's a surprise.
It reminded me of the V advert.
Yeah,
the way that was crap.
Yeah, it was utterly crap. And maybe I might redux that one actually because it shouldn't be too difficult to do. And also it's a trend for Ocean, isn't it? So, and that means also, does that mean we've got the game to come for the C64?
Yeah, I think we do.
Yeah, it says they're available for Commodore. Oh, God help us.
Sure we will. Sure it'll get a gold medal.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe. Let's do the charts. This is from CMVG. Let's do the countdown from 10 down to number 10. From 5 is Yogi's Great Escape.
Okay.
Football Manager is back in at number 9.
Never goes out.
Perennial favourite. It's World Cup in it, I'm guessing. Dragon's Lair down to number 8 from 7.
Yeah.
Quattro Sports, it's a new entry from Codemasters at 7. World Cup 90 is up to number 6 from 10.
Gosh.
Manchester United is straight in at number 5.
Predictably, yeah.
Paperboy stays at number 4. Pro Boxing stays at 3. Budget of Last Ninja is straight in at number 2. That is a bargain.
That is a budget bargain, isn't it? That?
And the US Gold Italy 1990 stays at number 1.
How is that number 1?
Well, that was the better one. The World Cup 90 was the worst one.
That's not saying much, is it?
It's not, but word has obviously got out that the better football game for the World Cup is that Italy 90. At least it's higher than World Cup 90.
True.
Small mercies. Bottom of 10, number 11 is Fantasy Dizzy. Kickoff 2 is in at 12. Indiana Jones and Temple of Doom is down to 13. Turrican is in at number 14. Road Blasters is down to 15. Dragon's Lair 2, Cindy's Castle is in at 16. Jack the Nipper 2 stays at 17. Big Trouble in Little China at 18.
Oh, goodness me, that's been re-released.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Adidas Football, I mean, people were just desperate for any kind of footballs at 19. And Vindicator is a new entry there at 20.
Okay.
Who knows? What have we got coming up for October? Just 10 games again. We've got Ivan Ironman Stewart Super Off-Road Racer, which I think that's quite well regarded. I think it's a top-down sort of super sprint one, but some people think one of the better ones on the machine. So Flimbo's Quest.
Okay.
And then we've got Super Stock Car as well.
Okay.
I'll just go through these. Monty Python's Flying Circus.
I don't remember that being very good.
And Puffy's Saga. Yeah, Puffy's Saga, whatever that is. I've got Dizzy vibes probably from that, I think. Yeah. Deliverance, Stormlord 2.
Pretty much identical to Stormlord as I remember it.
Yeah. Something called Spaghetti Western.
Interesting. Okay.
It's just genre. There's followed up by horror, then thriller, and rom-com.
Okay.
A game called Satan.
Okay, he's branching out.
Yeah, it stars Lou Diamond Phillips. It's in there. It's Snakes and Ladders. The game of Back to the Future 2.
Okay, I think that'd be very good.
I don't know. And then something called Atomics.
Okay.
That's what we've got for the next couple of weeks. There we go.
Let's see what October's going to bring us. September didn't bring us much but pain, did it? So
no. Frustration with Time Machine. It was two interesting games. I'll give you this two interesting games there in Time Machine and Heatseeker.
Yeah,
they're interesting new original games. So I'm always a bit of a in favour of something new and technically quite sound. Just not quite there, but interesting to play, I think. The rest were pretty much garbage. And the other good thing to come out of September 1990 is we've finally seen off the Wringlers.
Yes, the Wrangler games have done, thank God.
We've outlasted the
still
Wringlers.
Loading. Still trying to load it.
I think still probably is. We've done all our stuff at the beginning. I don't think there's anything more to add. Do you have anything you want to say, Graham, or should we get going?
No. Goodbye, September. Hello, Halloween, October with some spooky games. There's a game called Satan released in October. Timely.
Absolutely. They know their market. Okay, well, on that note, then, we shall get going. So, as ever, I have been Adrian Mills.
And I have been Graham Raddings.
And you have been listening to Zapped to the Past. We'll see you again next week. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to the Zapped to the Past podcast. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into the world of Commodore 64 games, as well as the music, films and TV from around the 1980s, driven, of course, by the issue of Zap 64 magazine published at that time. We will return with a whole new batch of games and stuff to talk about next week. Until then, if you want to listen to or download previous episodes of Zapped to the Past, and why wouldn't you, they can all be found on our website at zappedtothepast.com, as well as being available on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Deezer, Audible, Player FM, and, well, pretty much anywhere where we can upload them. By the way, we do always love to hear from our amazing listeners, so if you'd like to contact us about anything in the podcast or beyond, you can do so by emailing us at zappedtothepast@gmail.com. We're also active on Twitter under @ZapTother, as well as Facebook, Instagram, and most social media platforms. Just search for Zap to the Past and you'll find us. Oh, and if you like the podcast and what we're doing, please do like, share, review, rate us. It really helps. Something, apparently. The Zap to the Past podcast is written and produced by Adrian Mills and Graham Raddings, and recorded at Flaky Bits 2.0 Studio. All opinions expressed are those of the writers, and while we indeed love Zap 64 magazine, the Zap to the Past podcast is not affiliated with it in any way. Stay safe, see you next time, and remember, we play these games so you don't have to.